Part 253. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2527. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. The owner of the nails retracted his nails and calmly returned to the inside of the black mist. At the same time, inside the black mist, there was a galaxy-level being. After hesitating for a while, he said to the owner of the nails, a loach-like monster that was as large as 30 or 40 kilometers, expressed his dissatisfaction. The star-level warrior who was killed was his subordinate, and the star-level warrior was the general domain master of the star region where the star-level warrior came. He was also the supreme leader of many enemy forces. Oh? Are you dissatisfied too? Haha, do you also want to be like him and go to another world to reunite with him? I don't dare, sir, that's all I said. After hearing this, the galaxy-level powerhouse broke out in a cold sweat. You must know that he would never die for one of his subordinates. He was just complaining casually, but he didn't expect it to happen. Will be threatened with death by this adult. Along with this, many galaxy-level powerhouses in the black mist fell silent. They are the leaders of many galaxy-level powerful forces around the Orion Arm, that is, a leader-type figure in the star field. Originally, for them, because they are nearly invincible nearby or are among the strongest, they had been in the echelon for too long, leading them to think that they were one of the strongest people in the universe. Unexpectedly, this time there was an outside territory lord level coming, which made them deeply realize that in front of the territory lord, they were basically like the cats and dogs on the roadside were as miserable as they were. These territory lords will not give them the slightest face. As long as they disagree with the territory lord's words, they will be easily killed. Galaxy-level creatures pride themselves on being powerful and have a strong demeanor. In the eyes of other territory lords, in his eyes, it was a joke. You don't have to feel too uncomfortable. This is the reality of the universe, or should be said, the reality of the Milky Way. Here, you can never be called a strong person. In the past, you had so much confidence, just because you are the frog in the well. A territory lord looked at how many galaxy-level people couldn't accept it at all, and immediately said something joking and smiled. In fact, he understands that these galaxy-class people must be thinking that in the future they will improve their strength and come to him and others for revenge or something. But the problem is, from the perspective of these domain masters, any galaxy around the Orion Arm, it is impossible for super powerful people to cultivate to the domain lord level. The domain lord level seems to be just a piece of paper apart from the ordinary mid-level galaxy powerhouses, but in fact, the gap between the two is as huge as two species. What's more, these galactic-level people around the Orion Arm are not even mid-level galactic-level people. Even the primary strength of galaxy is not even the weakest in the central star field of the Milky Way. They are just a group of weaklings. Maybe some powerful stars in the central star field of the Milky Way can defeat them. If such weak existences were not still valuable, they would have been killed by the coming domain lords. Clean and tidy. Okay, let's continue talking about things and ask them to step back. At this moment, within the black mist, powerful energy swept away, causing the territory lord who looked down on the galaxy-level existence around the Orion Arm to change his face slightly. Yes. After saying that, the images that emerged in the black mist disappeared directly. Even the group of glaring galaxy-class people sighed and sank into the black mist area where they belonged. At this time inside the subspace, Jia Yan's clone had a panoramic view of everything. There was a little light of thought in his eyes, and at the same time, the pictures and memories were transmitted to the inside of the real body through a unique channel. Is that so? All the galaxy-level powerhouses, or rather all the galaxy-level powerhouses around the Orion Arm, actually have little to deal with the coming outside domain lords, they just dare to be angry but dare not speak out. Jia Yan thought about this and then fell into deep thought. He was wondering if there was a way to counterattack. After all, These galaxy-level strong men did not want to become the subordinates of those strong men, or they did not want to be other people's thugs. Moreover, if they did not gain anything, they must have been full for a long time. Resentment. And these grievances have probably been brewing in my heart for a long time, but I just didn't dare to burst out. Let's do this. I'll find a way to contact some of them. Even if I'm discovered or betrayed, I'm just a clone. Jia Yan finally thought about such a slightly risky idea. Not long after, in this starry sky, on a small battleship, there was a human-looking alien biological soldier, who was quietly replaced. Jia Yan's clone is still a human-looking clone, just a substitute soldier. It is still a little different in size and appearance from humans, but his clone is a very convenient thing. He only needs to move his brainwave power. It will look similar to the soldier, at least not above the galaxy level, so you can't find the difference between the two. Here we go, it's patrolling, right? I'll go. After Jia Yan had just replaced the soldier's identity, he directly took over the task of individual patrol. This kind of individual patrol task, and it is in the extremely peaceful rear area, is almost equal to a tiring and boring job. No one is willing to do it, but Jia Yan used his own clone to take over it, because of this only then did he have the opportunity to get closer to the Black Mist area. But he accepted the task on behalf of the soldier, and was surprised by the captain behind the soldier, saying that the soldier had become a little awakened today, but he was originally prepared to ask him to go. Jia Yan just smiled, and after accepting the mission, he entered the airship cockpit of the opponent's warship. In fact, the nearest spaceships and battleships in the Orion Arm are gradually moving closer to the alien direction, because only in this way can they catch up with others technically. So for Jia Yan, after driving some imported goods from the Earth Alliance, there is no problem at all in flying such an airship. Soon, a large number of small airships flew out of the battleship, like small animals flying away from their mothers. Countless airships were scattered to perform this boring security patrol mission. After Jia Yan drove the airship for a while, he drove the airship towards the edge of the black fog. You must know that a galaxy-level powerhouse is at least a few kilometers or even 10 kilometers in size, so the area they live in is even larger. Sometimes a battleship is responsible for patrolling the area where a galaxy-level powerhouse lives. It's just a black fog area. The Black Mist area that the soldier was heading to was home to a galaxy-level powerhouse who had just spoken out and almost had a quarrel with the Nail Domain Lord. Puff. Jia Yan drove his airship directly into the black fog. The early warning and defensive functions of the black fog were immediately ineffective under his sudden attack, at least in front of the airship. In the control room of Black Mist, there are Black Mist controllers who can discover the situation, but they probably think that this strong man who has had conflicts with Domain Lord level beings only did this to vent his anger, and did not come forward to investigate. After all, the relationship between the two parties is a bit tense. And because of such a small matter, they came to investigate something, which made the relationship between the two parties even more tense. Wouldn't it be regarded as a major disaster that ruined the plans of the lords of the territory? So Jia Yan grasped this point, didn't care about it at all, and entered the Black Mist openly. Huh? Airship? From which army? There are actually soldiers crashing into the place where a galaxy-level powerhouse is like this. It's so bold. Watch me kill you as a warning to others. The galaxy-level powerhouse smiled and then directly used his brainwave power to come over. He happened to be feeling uncomfortable, and a little ant came to crush him, so that he could vent some of his emotional problems. What he didn't expect was that the brainwave power of this galaxy-level powerhouse was actually blocked from the outside world by the tiny soldier on the airship who used the corresponding brainwave power. What? This, strong man. The galaxy-level being suddenly stood up from the chair he was sitting on. His face changed wildly, and he was ready to give a warning or use the fluctuations of the battle to attract the attention of others. You must know that the soldiers who dare to come in front of him, a galaxy-level powerhouse, and have the power of a strong man, will probably not appear without any preparation or understanding of him. Since the other party knows his identity and strength, it means that he has the means to deal with it, so the best choice now is to immediately warn him and ask others to provide support, so as to eliminate the possibility of danger. Sir, don't get excited, I don't mean any harm. Jia Yan was driving the airship and said calmly. Who are you? The galaxy-level powerhouse asked with a sinister look on his face. Because he had just had a quarrel with other strong men, he stopped trying to warn him, and he discovered that the small creature in front of him seemed to have energy that could compete with him, but it did not attack him. And after careful reflection, he found that this little creature might not be able to deal with him because it was too weak. That's why he dared to listen to the other party's words calmly. I'm Jia Yan. Then, the little creature's identity revealed by himself made his face change wildly again, and he looked directly at the little creature. The monster's expression changed from time to time. Jia Yan. This name is an indelible impression on the powerful people around the Orion Arm. Even though they all know that Jia Yan has been adventuring outside the Orion Arm for many years, it still does not prevent these galaxy-level beings from faintly ranking Jia Yan as the number one in the entire surrounding star field. This is not the number one powerhouse that Jia Yan calls himself, but he proves it to people with his many achievements and the speed at which he improves his strength, and this is also what others think of him. From the beginning to the end, Jia Yan never showed anyone who said that he is the strongest person in the star field around the Orion Arm. Since it is Jia Yan, this galaxy-level being, he no longer thinks that the small creatures in front of him can pose any threat to him, because he knows very well that Jia Yan relied on the so-called explosion technology in the beginning, which caused so many galaxy-class people died inside the Orion Arm. Such a strong man needs to be treated with caution even if his clone comes. It turns out to be Your Excellency Jia Yan. Hello, I wonder why Your Excellency Jia Yan came to my place. You must know that this is the lair of your biggest enemy. If someone discovers this, your clone will be killed. It's over. The galaxy-level man said with a somewhat uncertain expression. Yes, I am afraid that my clone will not be able to escape after being discovered, but is it different for you? If my identity is known, I am afraid that you who come into contact with me will not be able to escape the relationship, and use those guys to deal with you. With your attitude, I think you won't have a chance to explain, and you will be killed directly. Jia Yan said calmly, and these words made the other party look ugly, and then shook his head. Yes, Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are right. It is indeed possible that my life will be in danger after they know that I have been in contact with you, so why do you want to harm me? Or do you have anything to say to me? If you want to persuade them to surrender, sorry, I won't agree, because I don't think you have a chance against all the strong people here, haven't you seen it? There are so many domain lords, there is another one who seems to be above ordinary domain lords. If you had such strength, you would have unified our surroundings long ago. Jia Yan let the airship fly by itself in the vacuum, and his clone opened the airship's mask, flew off the airship, and then flew in a small circle with the opponent's face looking ugly, as if observing the office structure inside the black fog. Hey, the office equipment they gave you is really crude. You can't look down on people to this extent. Jia Yan smiled. What exactly do you mean? Does it have anything to do with what I asked you, whether the office equipment you gave me is good or not? The other party's face continued to be cold. Jia Yan turned his head and continued to smile mysteriously. Of course it does matter. Didn't you say that if I had good strength, I would have unified the surrounding areas long ago? In fact, this is because you are narrow-minded. You saw this is it black fog. I'm afraid you've never lived here before, or even heard of this kind of black fog, right? But, I know. Not only do I know, but I also have several sets of this thing in my hands. Son, Do you know where you got them? I don't know. Is it from the star field next door? Or is it the genius battlefield? Or a place farther away from the genius battlefield? I heard that you have been there. The galaxy-level powerhouse's face was as cold as frost. With his imagination, this was what he expected. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Jia Yan shook his head in disappointment, and then flew to a higher space than this strong man. He was not afraid of whether he would take action, and looked down at this galaxy-level being. His eyes were like looking at a country bumpkin or a pitiful frog in a well. Of course, there is also a little bit of pride. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2528. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. This is the answer to the topic you asked me just now. Do you know that I got this black mist in the Milky Way central star region? You don't understand, right? I'm afraid you don't even know where the galaxy's central star region is. So, say, this is the difference between you and me. Do you think that I have the strength to just stay in this small Orion arm and fight in a small area? Sorry, I don't want to tie myself to such a place. The Milky Way, the central star field, as well as the central black hole area of the Milky Way, and even the 4 giant stars in the black hole area, are the places I really care about. The overlord around the Orion arm? The strongest? Sorry, I don't fight here, so why do you think I don't unify this area? That's right. Because it's not necessary. The area around the Orion arm is too small and I can't stand it. Jia Yan's voice rumbled in the space inside the black mist, completely inconsistent with his human body. Although the galaxy-level being didn't speak when he heard Jia Yan's voice, the meaning in his eyes was quite obvious. As a strong man here, he actually knew that there was a larger world outside, but he really didn't know the specific details. Now after hearing Jia Yan's words, he suddenly fell silent, because since Jia Yan said going out to these places means that he has really been there, and if what Jia Yan said is true, then his mentality is easy to understand. As a person who has been to those places, he really looks down on Orion arm. And this galaxy-level person is also a person with brains. He thought that so many strong people gathered in this land of black mist this time, but even if there were so many strong people that his heart trembled, but these strong those who still dare not take action. In other words, even those territory lords whose strength was so high that he could not imagine, and who were not even ordinary territory lords, were actually worried about Jia Yan? After thinking so much, he sighed in his heart. He understood that what Jia Yan said was probably the truth, and he also understood why Jia Yan found him. Master Jia Yan, let's put it this way, what are you going to ask me to do, and what benefits will I get? Otherwise, I would not be able to work for you. After thinking about it for a while, the galaxy-level man said the above words with some hesitation. The human-like soldier transformed by Jia Yan suddenly laughed. First tell me the information you have now. Although I am not too afraid of these coming existences, it is always good to be prepared. If there is any need for your help in the future, I will contact you again. In addition, the benefits you get are also very simple. After the incident, I will personally guide you. You are now the first level of the galaxy, right? I can let you enter the peak of the first level of the galaxy, or even be promoted to the galaxy as long as you have the talent. It's not impossible, okay? The peak of the primary level of galaxy? Even intermediate galaxy? As soon as he heard about this condition, the local strong man at the beginning level of galaxy suddenly felt a little hot in his heart. You know, he has long understood that it is difficult for the strong people around this area to practice to a higher level. This is because they took the wrong path from the beginning, and many details and basics of practice went wrong. If you want to go further down, there is almost no way, even if there are domain lords in the star domain further away. On the one hand, it is because the skills and exercises practiced by those domain lords are supplemented. On the other hand, they have a unique skill inherited from a more powerful ancestor, or a talent. But the beings in this starry sky simply cannot have so many advantages, nor so many so-called inheritances. In fact, in their minds, they vaguely worship the Orion arm. As early as 200,000 years ago, not long ago, there was a territory lord of the evolved beast clan, but the problem was that after that territory lord was born, a large number of starry sky territory lords around were worried that the evolved beast clan would lead the Orion arm and the surrounding Orion arm to a new direction. Brilliant, even suppressed or replaced them all, so there was the previous battle to destroy the evolved beasts, and the Orion arm was sealed for 200,000 years. Now, the Orion arm has been reopened, and the evolved beast family has once again inherited a genius. Even this strong man seems to be much stronger than the previous evolved beast's strong men. In other words, the evolved beast is definitely coming out. Overcome past difficulties. Lord Jiayan, if you are willing to take me and the star field behind me for a journey, I am willing to serve you. This powerful man at the beginning of the galaxy finally lowered his head and brought his own star field with him in one breath. This was a very loyal statement. Of course, he has finally thought about it. The evolved beast's glory again cannot be stopped. Instead of trying to stop it, he might as well take this ride and accompany the Orion arm to move forward, and maybe return it to the star he is on. Territory, win a better future, and maybe even, have a new inheritance, so that the future of their star territory will no longer be confused. With inheritance, there is the possibility of giving birth to a territory lord. Jia Yan didn't quite know that the galaxy-level powerhouse in front of him was thinking so many things in one moment. But even if you don't know, you definitely understand that at this moment, the other party is fighting between heaven and man, and has thought a lot, otherwise he would not have made such a decision. Next, he smiled and got a lot of what he wanted. Such as intelligence. Although in the ranks of powerful people of this level, this galaxy-level being does not have much more core confidential information than the stellar level, but at least he has gained something, and there are also some key things revealed to him. Jia Yan. For another example, he revealed that in this black mist, there are actually several local galaxy-level people who are dissatisfied with the domain masters. However, due to the huge difference in strength, they are holding back and want to win again at the critical moment. A violent attack on these domain lords, this galaxy level can find ways to recruit these people. After listening to this, Jia Yan kept nodding. To be honest, he was very satisfied with this trip, especially after placing a chess piece on the enemy's side. He was extremely pleased. This may be a breakthrough in the future. Okay, since you don't have any more information, I'll leave first. You can make some excuses here. After a few days, when our counterattack comes, you will know that we are not at the mercy of this. Goodbye. Jia Yan smiled, then jumped on the airship he drove, then broke through the black fog and went out to the outside world. Observers in the entire black mist did not feel the changes here. As for the junior powerhouse from the galaxy, his expression, which had been calm all the time, became extremely nervous in his room. Well, although I don't really want to join Jia Yan's team, I don't want to join the team of the foreign domain lords. Forget it, so what if I join? Maybe I can really win a long-term benefit for future generations. There may be inheritance, and, the middle level of the galaxy. Thinking of this, his eyes showed a little hope. In the subspace, at this moment, an airship left its place and flew back towards the mothership from a distance. Jia Yan is not a fool who believes in everyone, so after he heard so much information just now, he will naturally hold back a hand, and his backup plan does not end there. As long as this galaxy class is suspected of deceiving him, he will make him directly death. There can be no other outcome. This is Chinfo as a senior domain lord. He will never be rough in the details. Deep in subspace. The giant mosquito relaxed its control on the clone, allowing him to occupy a small part of his energy. After free expression, he came back to his senses. Master, if Leda and the others come, should we start a war directly? No, I just got the intelligence and learned some interesting things, so we don't necessarily have to start a war directly. Moreover, even if we start a war, we may not win, so we will wait and see what happens. Jia Yan calmly replied to Adish's voice. In fact, after listening to so much information just now, he had some guesses about the enemy's thoughts and actions, and he also knew that the trigger of this incident was really his love affair with concubine Kun. Hate, love and hatred. Oh no, talking about love, hate, and hatred overstates the relationship between them. From Jia Yan's point of view, he has never had much interaction with concubine Kun at all, and actually because of such a small thing, the other party did the reaction was so violent. Therefore, it is like this even in the universe, only women and villains are difficult to raise. However, what they are doing is not necessarily a bad thing. Gee, are they trying to use this method? I am also a little interested. Jia Yan smiled, and then, under Aditha's incomprehensible gaze, he crept down again silently and became calm. What's wrong, Master? Hey, I can't see the Master's clone. It's so miserable. Aditha flew around like an extremely humane person, extremely curious about the information Jia Yan had obtained, but as a smart brain, he couldn't pursue the question, so he scratched his head and was extremely depressed. Jia Yan looked at him and knew what it was thinking, but he just didn't say it because it was quite interesting. Besides, he was just guessing now. He didn't know whether it was the answer he imagined. It would be embarrassing if he guessed wrong. In the distant star field of the Orion Arm, a team of strong men was moving quickly towards the direction of the Orion Arm. Leda, you said that your adults will give you full benefits afterwards, right? I have been to the galaxy Central Star Territory before, but I was very young at the time. I remember that some of the high-level resources in the galaxy Central Star Territory are very useful. I've been wanting to go there all these years, but I've been struggling with no chance. If he has it, can I just take it? A strong man who looked like a domain lord silently followed Leda, a subordinate of Jia Yan. From time to time he talked about the supplies he wanted, with a faint greedy look on his dog-like face. Okay, but if you don't do good things, or are greedy for life, my master will definitely want you to look good. You also know that since he can run rampant in the center of the galaxy, his strength can be imagined. Yes, I know that being able to run rampant in the central star field of the Milky Way is something that ordinary domain lords cannot do. Hey, that family is really strong. During the conversation between these two creatures, there were two other domain masters behind them, plus 9 galaxy level ones. Yes, after a period of hard work, Leda has recruited a new territory lord, but this territory lord is just like what we heard in the conversation just now. He is obsessed with wealth and resources. After all, the race is the kind of race that wants money rather than life. However, among such a race, there is a territory lord like him. As a result, most of the wealth in their entire star domain has flowed into the hands of their race, and the people are in dire straits. And Leighton noticed this characteristic of his and told the other party how strong his master was and how rich he was. What he didn't expect was that this strange and unfamiliar domain lord actually turned out to be. I was moved by this and took the initiative to come to help, but only asked for a large amount of wealth and resources. However, for Leda to know how Jia Yan obtained the wealth in the galaxy Central Star Territory, this request is acceptable. At worst, Jia Yan will be asked to beg when he returns to the galaxy Central Star Territory. Well, in addition, the two newly added galaxy classes are almost the same. They either come with threats or come because of promises. In short, Leda managed to gather together the 3 major domain lords and the 9 major galaxy level ones. After using the methods given by Jia Yan himself, he was probably at the level of a weak domain lord and turned into a not too weak force. The team marched towards the Orion arm in a mighty manner. A dozen strong men traveled together, causing the sun and moon to lose their brilliance in this starry sky. There seems to be some strong man following us. Is he an enemy scout? One day, Leda received a reminder from a sentient galaxy level, and finally discovered that there was a looming figure hanging behind him and others, and then his face became ferocious. Everyone, now is the time to see how strong everyone is. Let's take action against those in the rear. We can also use our first military exploits to claim credit from Lord Jia Yan. Hearing this, the strong men from all walks of life who were ready to attack Leda's arm all launched their own attack brilliance towards the looming figure behind him. Although Kui Kan's powerful energy fluctuations spread far and wide, it is a pity that it is too far away from the Orion arm. It would take hundreds of years to reach the side, and the brilliance of arrival it's already too weak and won't attract any attention at all. But Jia Yan got Leda's report as soon as the battle began and the results emerged. Result. It can be said to be very bad. What? Your coalition forces just came close to the Orion arm, and they encountered the enemy's scout troops, and then, 3 galaxy-level people died, and a territory lord was seriously injured, and they failed to defeat the enemy. Now they are running for their lives. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2529. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. When Jia Yan heard these words, he was extremely solemn. If these new forces come under his control, he has countless ways to make them more powerful and more effective. At least they won't die in such an unclear manner. Sir, there is a bigger problem now, and that is that one of the several domain masters has the idea of retreating. They did not expect that the enemy is so powerful. Leda's voice made Jia Yan's already serious heart become even more serious. What Leda said is very likely to become reality, because Jia Yan understood that an acquaintance invited him to help boxing. Although he might go, he encountered the enemy on the way and was frightened by the enemy's strength. If it were him, he would consider the option of quitting. Leda, please stabilize them first, and I will pick them up myself. Jia Yan thought about it, and it didn't take him too long to come to the conclusion of this method, and he knew that this should be his only method, and other methods would probably not have the slightest chance of retaining the coalition forces. Sir, come here in person? Well, let me stabilize them first. After hearing Jia Yan's reply, Leda let out a long sigh of relief. As a strong man at the beginning of the galaxy, although he has weapons given by Jia Yan and can reach a level close to that of a domain lord, that power is not his own after all. Just like the enemy sneak attack this time, if it weren't for that a familiar domain master helped him, but he might die in the first wave of sneak attacks. So this time he simply couldn't convince the crowd. If Jia Yan came in person, his pressure would be less. Moreover, they are now like a lonely boat in the sea. It's not that the strong men don't want to leave. They have long wanted to turn back when their casualties were so serious. But the problem is that they dare not leave alone. The enemy will appear wherever they appear. Possible. Leaving aside Leda's attempts to appease people, Jia Yan directly ordered Edisha to prepare for sailing as soon as the extremely costly ultra-long-distance communication was completed. In fact, he was even pondering whether this voyage would represent the true beginning of the war. After all, since the enemy can grasp the identity of the incoming team, it is impossible for Leda and the others to lose their position now. The only reason for not making an attack choice may be to encircle the point for reinforcements and let Jia Yan go there in person. And then set up a dragnet to wait for him to be fooled. But Jia Yan can't go. He knows that his current opportunity is with this group of strong men. Even if their number is not the same as that of the enemy's strong men, they can still be strengthened by his planned planning and various conditions. Situation, it will definitely bring huge combat effectiveness. Master, you can go. Editha was flying around in the air as if Jia Yan's troubles didn't exist at all. Of course, Adisha is not without worries, but it has digitized everything. Even if it is an annoying thing, there will not be too much sense of miscalculation, because for Adisha, everything it was all calculated, and it was nothing more than a matter of probability. For example, long ago, it calculated that Leda and his party might encounter a sneak attack. This was only one possibility, but the probability it calculated was quite low. It's just a probability of 1.12%, so it won't tell Jia Yan, because in terms of probability, this kind of thing will almost never happen. It just knows that it is possible. If this probability is told, then it would have to remind Jia Yan about everything, which would annoy people to death. Just like the current voyage, it is not impossible that the entire palace explodes, such as hitting a huge object that occasionally enters the subspace, or encountering a subspace storm, but this possibility is even lower. It's only one part of hundreds of billions. Do we have to tell Jia Yan about this? Edisha can only calculate the probability, but it cannot be avoided. At most, she will give Jia Yan some tips on what she has learned with high probability. However, Jia Yan himself has a relatively calm mind, so there is nothing to say about it. The problem this time is a bit troublesome. This is the first time that Jia Yan has encountered such a nerve-wracking situation, because whether it is the previous Orion Arm War, or the war in the central star field of the Milky Way, plus the black hole area, or the northern giant star, there are often strong ones. Everything was straightforward, and no one would really talk about any conspiracy. But this time he saw something about conspiracy, or how to use soldiers. In fact, this shows that Jia Yan has been lucky in the past, and it is not that he has not encountered similar schemes in the past. It is just because he has always had overwhelming power, so he has not been fooled around by others, and now but it was different this time. He felt that his overall strength was weaker than his opponent. In addition, the opponent also used tricks. The pressure was so great that he had the headache he was having now. If it were a weak enemy, no matter what moves he used, it wouldn't have much impact on Jia Yan. Boom. In the subspace, the huge palace that penetrated 10 degrees deep flew away from the front line. When Jia Yan left this space, no one knew about it. Even another strong subspace talent with a similar talent to Jia Yan didn't feel anything. After all, both of them are subspace talents, and it seems that their talent levels are also very different. So Jia Yan couldn't feel his presence at that time, so he also had difficulty feeling Jia Yan's stay and departure. If either side had overwhelming strength, it would have started a war long ago. It is precisely because both sides sense that the other side is a little troublesome that the war will drag on to this extent. The journey to the palace was fast and furious, and along the way, Jia Yan was also thinking about how to fight in the future. It's not that he doesn't have any cards in his hand, it's just that when his overall strength level is weaker than his opponent's, these cards are very difficult to play and are a bad hand. But it was different from previous wars. In the past, if he couldn't fight, he could just do a Mosquito run and escape from the enemy's combat range. He could still escape using his subspace ability. The difference this time was that his hometown was within Orion's arms, so the choice to escape became quite difficult to make, so the number of cards instantly decreased. Unless it is absolutely necessary, escaping is not an option. If he does not escape or implements the strategy of escaping and fighting at the same time, the problem will arise. The force value in his hand that is worth his consumption does not exist. The words that the galaxy-level powerhouse said to me last time allowed me to roughly understand the enemy's thoughts, but this idea was a bit wild and unreasonable, which shows that this powerhouse is a romantic thinking being, or in other words, he has no idea at all. He is a person who dares to think, and such people are often difficult to deal with. Jia Yan thought of his main enemy, who was also a domain master level space powerhouse with similar talents to him, and his eyes were a bit solemn and solemn. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had met his opponent. Or it should be said that Jia Yan knows that any enemy he encounters in the future, as long as his strength is similar to his own, will not be easy to deal with. Each one will have his own unique mind, unique thinking, and even there is a high probability that the thinking is not similar to that of most strong people, which means they are all elusive. After all, when they reach their level of strength, everyone is working hard to improve their level. The more they think about it, the more they will gradually become different. On the contrary, Jia Yan himself, as a senior territory lord level figure, is actually a combat-type territory lord. His real level is actually the first-time territory lord level. In terms of thinking, he is different from other serious people. There is a huge gap between the senior domain masters of the 8 classics. Young age, at this level, is sometimes not an advantage, but a disadvantage. That territory lord should have used the strategy of surrounding the point to call for reinforcements, and then luring me, the main snake, or the main mosquito out of the hole. So this time, if I really got there, it might be because the other party expected me. But I can't do it if I don't go, so all the results will depend on how I pick them up when I get there. Jia Yan thought about it and felt that he still had a chance. The other party should already have the information about the palace. The other party may also have guessed that he wants to use the palace to pick up people, so the other party has already prepared the idea or countermeasures to deal with the palace. But they know they have a palace, but do they know the inner secrets and functions of the palace? No, unless Concubine Kun ran to the central star field of the Milky Way to master all the information from the beginning. She even went to the palace where he was robbed and asked about the palace. But the problem is that Jia Yan doesn't believe that she can do it, unless she has already hugged the thigh of the domain lord level creature by then and forced the strong man who gave him the palace. Even if they knew it, how could they deal with it? Haha, besides, I absolutely don't believe that they could really be so watertight. Because if they really had that kind of level, I would have been discovered and attacked by them long ago. Jia Yan's idea, or countermeasure, is also very simple, that is, his idea of using the palace to pick up people is absolutely correct. Using the palace to pick up people is absolute, even if something unexpected happens, unless the subspace talented domain master personally otherwise, if he opens the subspace to pick up people, no one can stop him, and even if he destroys the 1st to 4th levels of space, he will not be able to stop him. After receiving the person, he sent the person to the palace. No matter what method the other party used, it would be difficult to shake his decision to pick the person up. It was even possible that he would kill a few of the strong men who came, which would have a negative impact on the entire war. For example, it will turn things around. Very good, the strategy is that simple. How they will decide, don't worry about it for now. It's scheming. That's how it should be played. Jia Yan's plan was extremely simple. That's what he thought, using his palace, and the other party would definitely not know the characteristics of the palace. Even if the enemy knew it, the palace had gone through many rounds of transformations after it came into Jia Yan's hands. Even if its original owner saw the current palace, he might not recognize it and would be unable to manipulate it. Therefore, he believed that there was absolutely no possibility of making a mistake on his part. Subspace is far away. Sir Leda, please tell me, when will your so-called evolved beast master arrive? If he doesn't come again, we will disperse on the spot. The enemy may still be observing us in the dark. Last time although we have withstood the enemy's attack, we are already on the verge of collapse. The enemy is stronger than us. If there is another attack, we will definitely die on the spot. So if your lord doesn't come, we will leave directly. A galaxy-level being stood in the vacuum with some annoyance. He was wary of the surroundings and spoke to Leda, who was beside the living beings. Leda is in the center of all creatures, and he is the weakest among them, because his superficial strength is only at the elementary level of the galaxy at most. But the problem is that after he picked up the subspace weapon given by Jia Yan, he will become a powerful warrior at the Domain Lord level, so protecting Leda has become the consensus of this team. Moreover, he is also the only bridge to communicate with that Lord Jia Yan. These creatures don't want to, after Jia Yan arrives. The bridge of communication was gone, and they didn't know whether they should trust the evolved beast. Several of you, my master will naturally return it right away. And he has given me news, saying that he will definitely receive you when he comes and will ensure your safety on the battlefield. You can absolutely trust my master, his strength must be beyond your imagination, and he keeps his word. Leda explained a little palely. Sure enough, another Zing level immediately shook his head in denial. Master Leda, you don't need to say this. If your master is really that powerful, he won't ask us to come to help this time. In addition, if he has such strength and wants to ask us for help, we have to worry about his original intention. After all, we have our own industries and resources in our respective homes. Could it be that he wants to seize our assets? I understand what you want to explain, but the more you say this, the more worried we become. Okay. Yes, Lord Leda, we believe in your credibility and have a certain affection for the evolved beast, so we agreed to this request for support. If you continue to consume our trust in this way, maybe we will be able to. I am completely disappointed in you and the adults behind you. Even a territory lord spoke weakly. The territory lord who spoke was the territory lord who had good relations with Leda. He could be regarded as a senior of Leda's clan. The injury he suffered this time was because Leda was almost killed in the first blow. The Domain Lord who made a sneak attack was killed. He took the initiative to block Leda's fatal crisis with his body. It can be said that it was already an excellent thing for Leda. But even such a territory lord expressed his dissatisfaction with Leda at this moment. It can be seen that the current team would have broken up long ago if there was no pressure from the outside world. They didn't dare to move in the space. They stood back to back, nervously looking at the vacuum of space around them, feeling extremely uneasy. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2530. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. In the vacuum of the universe, it seems that there are not many obstructions, but in fact there are many methods that can be integrated into the vacuum, such as subspace, and gravitational wave methods. Of course, more methods are used in normal in space. For example, the team that attacked them last time mainly used the brainwave power of a domain master, which was hallucinogenic. At first, no one noticed that there were sneak attackers in the normal space around them. When they passed by, they were directly attacked by the burst domain lord, and then came the overwhelming attacks. To be honest, a group of 3 domain masters seemed to be relatively strong, and they were able to block the first wave of attacks. However, apart from almost burping with the first attack, Leda used the so-called weapon that Jia Yan gave him. The magical weapon suppressed the 2 enemy domain masters in one breath. Although it was in danger, everyone present realized the power of Jia Yan. This is one of the reasons why the group of people who were attacked were still willing to believe Jia Yan even when they knew that it would take some time for him to arrive. After all, such a powerful being, making a weapon, can actually make a galaxy beginner suppress the 2 domain masters for a while. Such a being should not team up with the enemy to deceive them. Karen's patience has its upper limit. Leda has already said that Jia Yan will be coming soon, but after they waited for a long time without seeing the real owner, they still felt a lot of dissatisfaction. It's a way to vent overstressed emotions. Don't be in a hurry, and don't even think about leaving. Take a look around. If we get separated in this strange star field, we might be attacked and besieged by the enemy. Don't give them every opportunity to defeat them. Master Jia Yan will definitely come, and I can guarantee that Master Jia Yan is the strongest person you have ever seen, and you will definitely win this war. Leda had no other choice but to make a promise to these strong men who survived. Even if he were on Jia Yan's side, he would never think that the strong men in front of him made a wrong choice in wanting to leave this place, because they were willing to help, which was already a huge sacrifice. Now that the place has not been reached, half of them they were ambushed on the way. If it were Leda himself, he would have lost his composure. Therefore, he looked pleasant and would never speak loudly to the remaining strong men. What Leda said made sense. The people present were really afraid that they would be attacked by enemies hidden around them after leaving the main force, so they stopped talking. By the way, the small team that sneaked up on us seemed to have 5 or 6 territory lords in it, but after careful observation, they seemed to be exactly the same person. In other words, there was only one territory lord who sneaked up on us. Well, I didn't expect that just one person could resist all 3 of us territory lords and kill 3 of our galaxy-level friends. The injured domain lord, who was also Leda's family senior, started another topic in order to change the subject. These words made the other strong men present start to ponder. Yes, I also feel that there are more than one territory lord. His energy and overall impression give me the impression that he is the same person. Another territory lord also spoke calmly. The last remaining one didn't speak much from the beginning to the end, and he seemed to be the strongest among the group. Of course, he was also the territory lord Leda finally found, and his purpose was it's unclear, but at least now, he has not done any harm to Leda's team. But when he said this, he still spoke. He is the same person, and he also understands that his combat power cannot overwhelm our team, so he does not dare to attack us directly. So I also think that Leda, what my friend said is right. If we don't separate, he won't have a chance. Leda looked at the territory lord with some surprise, and then saluted gratefully. Thank you for your words, senior. Then let's do it. I hope the enemy won't come to reinforce us again. I also hope that the so-called evolved beast master's strength will not disappoint us. An unruly mid-level strong man from the galaxy looked at Leda and then snorted coldly. He is the person in this team who wants to escape from this war zone the most, and then leave the team and return to his own star domain. He even seems to have regretted it in his heart. Why, after listening to the nonsense of Leda and others, he was led to come here, but without the so-called adults seeing him, 3 guys died and even a domain lord was seriously injured. Not only him, but everyone present probably felt a little regretful. Because they saw clearly in this battle that what they and others encountered might not be as weak an enemy as they originally imagined, but a strong person who could easily compete with them or even destroy them. The real enemy. Of course, it can also be seen from the side that the so-called evolution beast lord may not be a loser, because if the enemy is really strong and the evolution beast is not strong enough, they will not need to use strategies or attack the incoming support. The strong team had already torn apart the Orion Arms defense, invaded it, pulled out the evolved beasts and killed them. But they didn't do it, which shows that the strength of the evolved beasts is probably at an earth-shattering level. And even if the evolved beasts are strong, they don't have any sense of security, because the stronger is the stronger they are, the weaker they are. In such a battle between gods and gods, they will die casually. So who won't regret it? And when Jia Yan was getting closer and closer, and in the starry sky, the members of the strong team no longer gave the sneak attack on the domain lord any chance. A huge figure flashed past in the space, and then majestically, he just came to the front of this group of domain lords and galaxy-level powerhouses, and looked at these powerhouses calmly and calmly. Have you all seen clearly the strength we have? I didn't kill you all before, just because I still thought about not killing. It's not easy to cultivate to the level of you and me. If you know each other, yes, go directly back to your star domain. Our forces promise to wait for you and will not hunt you down or invade your star domain. If anyone agrees, please leave directly and I will never attack. This is a strong man who looks similar to a monkey. He flies in front of a group of domain lord level galaxy level strong men without the slightest hint of fear, and he dares to get very close. He is obviously quite confident. It's him. Is it really the same character? But how do those domain lords explain it? It's such a terrifying existence. Standing there makes me feel a little uncomfortable. The faces of all the territory lords and galaxy levels changed drastically when they looked at the coming monkey-like territory lord, and they felt quite scared. Precisely because they had fought against the domain lord in front of them, they knew how terrifying this person was. Compared to the evolved beast Jia Yan, who had never known his specific strength, they thought that such an enemy was extremely terrifying. There were only a few people who didn't show too much emotion. One of them was Leda, because he had been to the central star field of the Milky Way and had seen such a being several times. The other was the last territory lord to join the team. He looked at the territory lord in front of him calmly, with an expression that was not only unafraid, but even a little disdainful. Since you know how terrible I am, you can just do what you want. I will keep my word. The monkey creature made a gesture with his arms, telling them to leave. The expressions of all the creatures present changed somewhat uglily, and they looked at each other in a similar way. Then no one spoke, they just stood there in a daze, not moving. It seems that you either don't trust me, or you still want to help the so-called Orion Arm evolved beast. Do you know how the word death is written? The monkey creature looked grim, looking at the group of strong men in front of him with some evil eyes, feeling that there was anger bursting out of him. Puff. 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 Following the anger of this monkey-like creature, several huge creatures of different shapes flew out automatically around him, some of which looked like rhinos, some like elephants, some like earthworms. In short, one thing is enough. The only characteristic of these monsters is that their brainwave power fluctuations are very similar to monkey creatures, as if they are the same person. Here we come. This is the little team sneaking up on us. Looking at this guy's words, is it possible that all domain lords are controlled by him alone? Or is he himself the only one who controls all monsters? How is it possible? I don't believe that one creature can control so many domain masters. Including the monkey creatures themselves, there are a total of 5 domain lord creatures, which seems to have an overwhelming advantage over this side. Are you ready? Since you don't want to leave, I will take your lives. The monkey creature laughed wildly, then controlled the territory masters, flew directly in front of this strong team, and launched an attack. It didn't work some time ago. Do you think you can do it this time? That's a bit arrogant. The first creature to come forward was not Leda or any other strong man. While all the strong men were frightened, it was the domain lord who had been quite mysterious and was the last one to join. He came forward with a calm expression. Go and use his extremely huge slap to slap this group of territory lord level beings. Fighting so many of us by yourself? You're looking for death. You're going to die. Puff. The various territory lords who were originally facing everyone came directly to the last territory lord and engaged in a head-on battle with his slap. Boom. A loud noise like the earth was shattering appeared in the universe, and then a shockwave visible to the naked eye exploded earth-shatteringly. The two sides carried out the first instant of superimposed attacks. The 5 major domain lords met a domain lord like him and ended up in a draw. That monkey creature. His expression changed greatly. Haha, I knew it. The expression of the territory lord who finally joined Leda's team became more indifferent. These are all clones, the clones of various territory lords, and your god is the power of brain waves. Through the power of brain waves, with control, You can bring all these domain lords under your control, but the problem is that your brainwave power is only the power of one domain lord. Now if you want to control the 5 major domain lords, it is simply impossible to control them well. That is to say, if you let your clones spread out, your brainwave power will increase and decrease, and you can completely keep any one of them at a level close to that of a domain lord. However, if you attack the identities of the 5 domain lords together, then you will always be just for a territory lord. Your energy is not bad and is on par with mine. The face of the monkey creature became ugly. That's right, all the domain lords present were either purchased by him, killed by himself, or were given to him by adults. His limit is to control the 4 clones with his talent of brainwave power. And when they appeared together, he also trained several major clones to take turns fighting. Even if the attack is just a little time away, it can be guaranteed that the 5 major bodies will all look like a serious domain lord, nothing more than the brain. The power of the wave must be rotated quickly, so that no one can see the hands and feet. But now, the domain lord creature in front of him recognized his trump card in one breath. This made him extremely depressed. Everyone, let's fight, but we can't encircle him. The encirclement style of fighting him is not suitable. His brainwave power talent is very strong, which is enough to consume a lot of our strength. He will be defeated. I will take the lead first. You observe my fighting method, and you will be able to deal with him according to my fighting method in the future. If it is a will battle, he will be defeated soon. The territory lord sneered and launched many kinds of attacks in one breath, which made the monkey territory lord and his clones tired of dealing with them. There were even situations where the clones' energy supply was insufficient and they were hit. Everyone around them took a look. Well, they finally understood what the domain master said at the end. It turned out that when they were one-on-one, they only needed to use a wide area attack as much as possible to cover all the clones of the monkey creatures. Just go in, so that he can use all the clones to the greatest extent. Sharp. Your Excellency is indeed the most talented person in the star field over there in recent years. It took 500 years to cultivate to become a territory lord. Sure enough, even if you are placed in an area close to the center of the Milky Way, you are a genius. He is so strong. This kind of vision, talent, and strength, at least I have never seen in the nearest star field. Even the legendary evolutionary beast, I don't think he can surpass this one. Leda was a little dumbfounded as he listened to the words of these galaxy-level and territory lord-level people beside him. What are you comparing to Master Jia Yan? Besides, that monkey creature is gifted with brainwave power. If this kind of thing is placed in the central star field of the Milky Way, it will be a piece of shit on the street. Do you think it is exaggerated? Or should I say that even in the central star field of the Milky Way, where brainwave power geniuses are everywhere, no one uses brainwave power to control clones? Is this guy so stupid that he has a brain problem? And our territory lord, who saw his hands and feet and was so proud, is there something wrong with his mind? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2531. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. What's so proud about this? Leda was really speechless. He really wanted to let the frogs in the well know that his Lord Jia Yan existed far above this. Humph, I won't play anymore. This guy is very annoying. You guys should do it too. The territory lord, who had many clones, his face darkened for a moment, and he shouted into the void behind him. Haha, I didn't expect to encounter such an interesting domain lord level in this backward starry sky. But he is still too weak, otherwise our adults might still bring him under the threshold of his subordinates. No, this guy looks like a genius. I'm afraid he has been thinking too highly of himself for too long. He is definitely an unruly type of person who has been accepted as a disciple of the Lord. The cost of letting such a person recognize the reality is too high, and there is also the possibility of betrayal. Maybe, I don't want to work with him. Oh, I hope the so-called evolved beast is not such a guy, otherwise. Along with the appearance of the joking voice, figures one after another slowly emerged from the dark environment. All the strong men beside Leda were dumbfounded. They all knew that as a domain lord level existence, it was natural for them to have the ability to hide their bodies, but they never expected that these people would show their bodies. It was so shocking that these guys could be so close to them without being noticed by themselves and others. After all, those present were only a handful of powerful creatures in the nearby area. Today's scene seemed to give them a huge slap in the face. However, among the people present, there was one person who had outside perspective and understood the meaning of their words, and that was Leda. Everyone, you are approaching us rashly. Are you also an accomplice of this senior territory lord? In addition, I just heard that one of you seniors slandered my family. I wonder if you dare to admit it? These words are you said it, otherwise I won't be able to name you when I explain it to my adults in the future. Such a small and powerful person at the beginning of the galaxy dares to name and speak to the territory lord? The creatures in this area are so confident in Gudu. Even the huge relationship between the beginning of the galaxy and the territory lord, can't you see the difference clearly? Among the behemoths that emerged from the normal universe, there was one who looked directly at Leda with a surprised expression, as if he had seen some rare creature. Between the novices of the galaxy and the strong territory lords, even the strongest novices of the galaxy and the weakest territory lords, in the outside world, there is a gap between heaven and earth. But in the weaker place, the gap between the two becomes smaller and smaller. For example, now, he has been scolded by a mere beginner of galaxy for who knows how long. I'm sorry, Your Excellency, I have spent some time in the outside world, so I am quite clear about the differences between the novices of the galaxy and the territory lords you mentioned. I am only talking to the seniors like this because I want to represent my family. My lord is just looking for justice. Just as you see me as a weakling, my lords will only see you as you see me. What Leda said again was like a potboiler. The strong men who had just appeared and were still showing off were dumbfounded and couldn't show off anymore. Hey, listen, what are you talking about? This guy actually said that his master must be that evolved beast. He said that the evolved beast looks at us just like we look at such a strong person at the beginning of the galaxy. Their eyes are the same. Ha, I'm laughing so hard. This should be the funniest joke I've heard since I came to this star field. If it weren't impossible, I would want to catch this guy and bring him to my power every day. Tell me a joke. What are you talking about? He said that his master actually looks at us the same way we look at him. My God, this is so ignorant and ignorant. Several domain lords were amused by Leda's words and laughed out loud. Some even felt as if they couldn't laugh or cry, because they really didn't expect that in this starry sky, they were so far behind that there were still people. I think they are so different from the so-called evolved beasts. Should I say that I am confident, or am I ambitious? It's so similar to a country called Asin on Earth. Oh no, this all looks like the Great Cold Empire, the superpower of the universe, which once ruled the entire universe. Teiaro is arrogant. Everyone, you are ridiculous, but after you laugh, you have to take responsibility for your actions. To a certain extent, my family is not as easy to talk to as me. Leda felt that these guys were a little bit he bullies people, so his words are a bit high-spirited. That's all, no matter what your lord, we wanted to see him this time, and he came just in time. But before that, let you little guys try it out. What is the power of the external domain lord? Let's take action. This group of territory lord creatures, plus the monkey from before, totaled 4 people. The 4 territory lords took action at the same time. One of them went to support the monkey, and the other 2 came towards Leda's team. The deputy commander will kill them all in an instant. This. Flee or fight. At this end, except for the genius territory lord of the star domain who was fighting with the monkey creature, the other two territory lords were a little hesitant, especially Leda Sr. He immediately felt uncomfortable because he was injured and did not want to fight another territory lord. What's more, after the recent battles, he understood very well that his own strength was probably nothing in the eyes of these outside domain lords. Like the last time the monkey creature controlled his clone, after he was injured, even though it was the combat power has become a bit weaker, but he can still only compete with the clone of the monkey creature. This is a reality that is quite difficult for him to accept. At this moment, two more serious outside domain lords were attacking. He began to feel less confident in his own abilities and combat effectiveness, and always felt like retreating to a safe place. Two seniors, I'll go first, and you guys will clear the formation for me. My master will be here soon, just hold on for a while. Without any hesitation, Leda directly took out a huge hammer-like object that was larger than his entire body from within the subspace. Then, under the extremely surprised gazes of both parties, Leda and the approaching one of the territory lords attacked head-on. What? You are just a junior in the galaxy, and you dare to challenge the domain lord? And it's me? Are you really drunk? Or are you too confident in the thing in your hand? That territory lord was the one who scolded Jia Yan the most. Now that he didn't see the Jia Yan he wanted to see, he actually started fighting with one of Jia Yan's subordinates first, as if his status had been directly lowered by one level. Moreover, this subordinate of Jia Yan was still a strong man who could only reach the peak of the primary level of the galaxy. In an instant, he felt that he had been underestimated, and his heart there is an anger that is difficult to suppress. Since it is difficult to suppress, then don't suppress it. The domain lord's method is to use his body to fight the enemy, and this happens to be the opponent Leda wants to see most after using the magic weapon given by Jia Yan. Because of the explosive power of the magic weapon, after the bonus, it is really very effective against such a strong person in the physical system. Well done. Leda raised the hammer, and the opponent snorted coldly, and put his elephant-like hooves on the face of the hammer. Of course, he also wanted to attack Leda and bypass the hammer, which might have some problems, but the hammer was too big. After Leda took control of it, his entire body was hidden behind the hammer, and attacks could not hit him at all. Boom! In the next moment, the hammer collided with the opponent's hoof, and then the silent space expansion and explosion force spread like flying, and the shockwave swept into the sky. All the creatures around him were screaming in surprise and unable to get close. As for the strong man who was like an elephant creature, he was not shocked at Leda's use of such a mediocre hammer, because he believed that such a heavy thing would definitely be imprinted by his hoof. The kick was far away, and by the way, Leda, who was behind the hammer, died under his counter-attack. But what he didn't expect was that when his hoofs collided with the opponent's hammer, he felt an earth-shattering power suddenly burst out from the hammer, and it moved towards his body. The pressure was so great that even him felt horrified. What kind of power is this? He did not use all his strength in this attack, so after the collision, he was the one who was forced to retreat. He was swept away by the hammer and flew out of the battle circle. From the outside world's senses, it was as if he had been knocked away by the hammer. Circular shockwaves rippled out in the vacuum of the universe, causing the sun and moon to change color, making it impossible for the bright sun to compete with its brightness. Such a move directly shocked every strong person present. After all, no one thought that Leda could withstand the attack of the coming domain lord before this attack. And you know, in the previous monkey creature sneak attack incident, Leda also used his hammer weapon to deal with a clone of the monkey creature, but that battle happened too fast, and it ended too quite quickly. After killing several galaxy-level people and injuring a domain lord here, the monkey creature controlled all his clones to leave the field, which resulted in Kong possessing an extremely terrifying magic weapon. The weapon failed to reflect his strength. At most, everyone knew that he seemed to be able to use the magic weapon to resist a casual blow from a domain lord. But it was just a casual blow. Although the current enemy still did not use all his strength, the attack power was definitely not comparable to that of the monkey creature's clone, and just like this, Leda used his magical weapon to resist it. "My lord, please stay." Leda's pride rose again. As someone who had fought with the Territory Lord in the central star field of the Milky Way and even won a small victory, he would naturally no longer be so afraid of the Territory Lord. At this time, he was even more afraid of the Territory Lord. After one of them, the hammer had turned around, and the positive and negative explosive power on the hammer was fiercely activated again, and the hammer hit the side, preparing to bypass their side of the battlefield and attack the several territory lords behind them who were recruiting partners. "You are too arrogant. Do you think I will be careless?" The territory lord who was enveloped by Leda's attack was a very fast territory lord. He was not that big, but had an extremely flexible body. When he saw Leda using all his strength, the hammers after the unprecedented explosion of power came, he suddenly did not collide with the hammer, but bypassed the huge cross-section of the hammer and directly attacked Leda behind the hammer. Everyone knows that Leda is just a junior star of the galaxy. He now has the power to attack the domain lord. I am afraid that the hammer in his hand plays an absolute role in it. Therefore, it is the best choice not to fight Leda head-on, but to go around and attack his true body. The choice is right. But the problem is, assuming that their choice is correct, they also need their speed, which is comparable to the hammer, a magic weapon with full firepower that explodes with two positive and negative forces. Boom. The more the magic weapon hammer is knocked down, the faster it goes, because the positive and negative forces inside it are constantly erupting its final light and heat. Not only does the acceleration not stop in the later stage, look for the book continues to increase the number of keys, causing the tapping speed to become faster. What? So fast? The extremely fast creature's face turned ugly, and then he had to face Leda's hammer head-on, and the face of his hammer was directly cut into each other. This time, the situation was no different from last time. Although he was not injured, the problem was that he was not a powerful creature, and his frontal attack power was definitely insufficient. After being careless this time, he was hit directly by the hammer face. Even if he used enough force, even if they lose their strength, they will inevitably be knocked away like the powerful elephant creature last time. The whole process at this time may be said to be slow, but in fact it was just two swings one after another. As if in an instant, Leda swung the hammer twice, knocking the two domain masters away from the contact surface. Both territory lords were not embarrassed, but they suffered a great loss in their morale and lost their face. When the other helpers and enemies looked at Leda, their expressions finally changed again. This Lord Leda, after using his so-called magic weapon, is it so scary? This is what the evolved beast territory lord gave him? And how powerful would a being who could give Leda such a weapon be? As expected, evolved beasts are indeed the terrifying existence recorded in our ancestors. Our ancestors have said that evolved beasts cannot be allowed to grow, and if they are allowed to grow and reach the domain master, they will be invincible. Now, I am afraid that this person has already. It's not as simple as an ordinary domain lord. Just giving a weapon to his subordinates can fight against the terrifying domain lords from the outside world. Everyone present, after Leda's blow, was not only dumbfounded by Leda's performance, but also quickly thought of Jia Yan's terror from Leda. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2532. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. The powerful creatures in the universe are all extremely realistic existences. Just like the current situation, when we originally knew that the enemy would be difficult to deal with, and if they were really hostile, even the Territory Lord might die. The Territory Lord and all the galaxy-level beings who came to help wanted to leave. But at this moment, facing a formidable enemy, Leda, the junior powerhouse of the galaxy who invited them, once again demonstrated his terrifying combat power. Oh no, or should I say, it showed the fighting power given to Leda by Jia Yan. This directly caused everyone present to change their minds. You know, this is not an ordinary Earth-level or Heaven-level battlefield. On that kind of battlefield, items from the strong or outside objects have a great impact on the outcome of the battle. The victory of the Earth level against the Heaven level does not count at all. Something to be surprised about. Even between half-star and star level, it is not unheard of for the star level to perform exceptionally, using external items or conspiracies to defeat a star-level strongman with a half-star level body. But going up further, it is too difficult. Between the star level and the galaxy level, the level difference becomes even more terrifying. It is almost impossible to kill the enemy beyond the level. In addition, for the strong, that said, external items are becoming less and less helpful. This is true even between the galaxy level and the star level, let alone between the galaxy primary level and the Territory Lord. You know, there is an intermediate galaxy between them. From the galaxy level up, almost most of the items in the universe, or even almost all items, can no longer affect the outcome of the battle between the two parties. Almost all of them are measured by personal combat effectiveness. Killing enemies across levels. Being at this level is synonymous with being a genius and a person with terrifying attack power, and is generally extremely rare to appear. But now, in front of this group of local strong men, there is actually a vivid battle between the galaxy level and the Territory Lord level, taking place in front of their eyes. What is even more terrifying is that this strong man of the first level of the galaxy, with only one foreign object, he was able to resist the two domain lords. No, it should be said that he had a slight upper hand from the beginning. What a terrible thing this is. That evolved beast exists. Not only is its own fighting power terrifying, but the items it bestows on its subordinates are also so terrifying. Could it be that after they joined Jia Yan's command, Jia Yan would also give them similar items? This will require a change of thinking. After knowing that the strongest person on their side might be a terrifying existence far beyond their imagination, their thoughts changed. After all, the current situation was not desperate enough, and they could withstand this impact. I'm afraid they can wait for that person to arrive, and seeing that the enemy has been attacking their team and preventing them from joining that person's command, it means that they definitely don't dare to attack that person himself. In other words, they won't wait until Jia when the rock comes, they are safe. They can still afford to wait for such a small amount of time. Your Excellency Leda, we are just two foreigners, let me help you. The uninjured person in the rear suddenly transformed into a person with a strong sense of justice who was fighting injustice. He rushed forward and aimed at Leda's side. The man became angry and wanted to attack Leda's power again. Type Domain Master. Boom. This time it was another earth-shattering and terrifying impact, but the result of the impact shocked most of the people present. Because the Territory Lord who helped Leda fight against the powerful Territory Lord was unable to withstand it at the first moment and flew backwards. He was simply unable to compare with the other party's power and could not even do the slightest hindrance. When he arrived, he was beaten until he spat out a pool of blood and was knocked away from a distance. What? This, even he couldn't resist a blow, but Leda resisted, and resisted the blows of two domain masters in a row. How powerful this must be. The last senior Leda behind him, who had been injured before, had a horrified expression at this time, because he felt that among the juniors of his race, there really was someone who might be more powerful in combat than him. They are all terrible juniors. Although you are a junior who only becomes stronger by using foreign objects, to the strong, no matter what you use, if you have that kind of fighting power, that is your strength. His eyes flashed with a bit of brilliance, and then he suddenly moved his feet and flew towards the direction of the tower. He was ready to help resist. Even if he couldn't resist one of the two incoming domain lords with his injured body, he could at least help from the side. Hey, want to go over and help? It's not that easy. The last enemy territory lord came to the senior Leda and attacked directly with his claws, without going all out, as if he was teasing the opponent, which made this already suffering. Senior territory lord Leda, who was injured and whose strength was greatly reduced, became tired of dealing with it. The battle between the two sides revealed the huge disadvantage of Leda's side from the very beginning. Those Galaxy-class players only played a role of cheering and cheering on the side at most. It was difficult to even find a chance to make a sneak attack. However, the territory lords were he quickly fell to the disadvantage. If Leda hadn't directly burst out with astonishing fighting power, holding down the two domain masters by himself, this battle might have ended with all the casualties on Leda's side. Just as the two sides were going back and forth, fighting for a while and being inseparable, in the subspace on the edge of the war zone, a faint approaching figure arrived quietly. He is Jia Yan. However, at this time, Jia Yan, after discovering the situation on the battlefield, did not immediately take action to fight. He did not forget that there was a strong man in the enemy who had the same subspace talent as him. And the other party also has means of action that far exceed his. Maybe he is hiding somewhere in the subspace at this time, waiting for his true body to arrive. Buzz. Inside the subspace, the giant mosquito releases its own brainwave power, and because this brainwave power is emitted by the subspace talent holder, it has a bonus effect on the exploration in the subspace, and waves move around. Ripple away. Very good, there isn't any creature nearby, at least there isn't one that's too strong. Of course, if it's too much stronger than mine, there's nothing you can do. If such a being wants to deal with me, it can just do it casually. So no matter whether there is someone that's strong or not, it is meaningless for me to explore. Now I just need to understand that there is no strong person who can threaten me in the subspace. Jia Yan calmly finished exploring the crisis in the subspace and stopped thinking about it. Puff. A certain moment. The monkey territory master who had created several avatars and fought inextricably with the extremely talented local territory lord. Even when another territory lord occasionally intervened in the war zone to help, the monkey territory lord had slowly suppressed the talented territory lord directly. I only felt a clone of myself next to me. There is a sharp and dark foot, which is stimulated fiercely. What? This. As soon as he noticed that something was attacking his clone, before he had time to react, he felt a pain in his head. The pain from the clone was transmitted to his real body, causing him to scream. The clone that was originally beside him seemed to be unable to react at all. It was directly cut into two halves by the huge foot that appeared. It did not encounter even a trace of obstruction, as if it had encountered something. He was simply unable to deal with a terrifying and powerful person. Is this here? What a terrible pressure. Is this similar to when we face an adult? It's too exaggerated. We work under the hands of adults every day and are quite sensitive to subspace, but he can still arrive without us noticing. As expected, he is an existence that attracts the attention of adults. At this moment, the strong men around them were all aware of what was happening here, and every one of them felt panic and shock in their hearts. That clone of the monkey creature, don't you think it's strong? In fact, it is still extremely strong, at least as strong as an ordinary first-level warrior in the galaxy. If he focuses on this clone, he will reach the strength of a domain lord. Even if the sudden appearance of the foot was a sneak attack while the opponent was not paying attention to the clone, it was definitely powerful enough. And judging from its ability to kill the clone in an instant, Even if the monkey creature focuses its attention on the clone, it is probably impossible to resist it. In other words, the gap in strength between the two sides is unprecedentedly huge. The self-proclaimed local genius domain master creature who was fighting against the monkey creature was also suddenly shocked at this moment. He could only vaguely feel that a figure was approaching beside him, and then the figure swept past him. The enemy he had dealt with was a bit difficult, and a clone died directly like this. There was some sparkle in his eyes. You know, as a genius, he absolutely does not believe that there is anyone more talented than himself in this area. Even if it is the so-called evolved beast, he does not think that the other party will really be more talented than himself. Even if it is the Queen of the Zerg who left a few years ago, he is ready to take over after 2 years when his strength becomes more mature. Challenge in person. But what he never expected was that before he even started his actions, this so-called evolved beast personally sent people to the door and said that he wanted them to work together to deal with the enemies coming from the outside world. Although he is not interested in external enemies, he will not resist if he can see this evolved beast, who is rumored to be more talented than himself, has been practicing for less time than himself, and has entered the Realm Lord level. Meet and greet. This was also the case just now. The talent of the monkey domain lord in front of him was quite rare for him, and he had never seen it before. So, he directly started fighting with the opponent. He even raised the opponent's ability. He had a somewhat powerful thought, but not long after this thought arose, he felt a little uncomfortable, because he heard that Sir Leda beside him actually thought that he could not compare with the evolved beast. So he fought hard again, trying to get Leda to say that he was not under the evolved beast at all. But what he didn't expect again was that before he had unleashed all his combat power, Lord Leda himself had unleashed an astonishing combat power. In other words, his weapons showed that he was not inferior to him, and might even be better than him. One strong combat effectiveness. At this time, he was a little shocked, even dumbfounded, and couldn't fight well, because he knew that the maker of this weapon, according to Leda, was the evolved beast himself. In other words, he just relied on a weapon given to a subordinate has almost the same combat effectiveness as one's own, or it can be said to be stronger than one's own combat effectiveness. So how strong will the evolved beast himself be? After the thought arose, his thoughts were like weeds, constantly echoing deep in his heart. He didn't want to let himself think too much, but often the more situations like this, the more he thought, and the result was that the battle was difficult. The more you fight, the worse it gets. After all, the enemy is very strong, at least it is not something he can defeat if he is distracted. But just now he accidentally took away some snacks, which made him betray himself. He was so close that he found Shiyuan when he is about to be hit by the enemy. Just like that, a foot suddenly stretched out from the subspace. Then he seemed to have seen some hallucination. The clone that he tried so hard to block was cut into 2 pieces by the foot without any hindrance. With the foot, he swept back and killed the other clone. After cutting it off, he finally came to his senses. Who? That evolved beast. Impossible. So strong. At this moment, deep down in his heart, he would rather believe that this should be a sudden help from a passing powerful person, rather than believe that this could be the evolutionary beast Master Jiayan that Leda said. Because he knew the opponent's trajectory of becoming stronger, and the training time was much shorter than his own. But if he reached a level that was so much stronger than his own in such a short period of time, then what would happen to someone like him who calls himself a genius? How can he be considered a genius if he exists? So he didn't want to believe it. But if you don't want to believe it, is it really the truth? Impossible. Pyridine. Another foot stretched out from the subspace. This time, the foot stretched out was like sweeping away a small fly, and it swept away another monkey creature clone that had reached the domain lord level that was still beside him. An understatement of scratching. In the entire space, it was as if everyone else had slowed down, except for this terrifying monster that flew out of the subspace, at a normal speed. Of course, this was not the case in reality. It was just that others were too slow, and the creature that appeared was too fast, making it look like he was in the same time frame. Haha, it's so lively. Jia Yan smiled, ignoring all the panicked enemies and allies around him, and directly poked out the head of his giant mosquito from the subspace. Present. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2534. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Present. Everyone saw it. What was coming was a giant mosquito with a length of 50 kilometers, 6 slender black legs, and a shining mouth part. The whole body gave people the impression of a terrifying monster. It calmly emerged from the subspace. Show up. I've met Lord Jia Yan. Seeing this situation, Lada's face burst into uncontrollable joy. He flew forward from a distance and performed the etiquette on Jia Yan. Hello, Master Jia Yan. This is the first time we met. I have admired Mr. Jia Yan's name for a long time. When I saw you today, I was really in high spirits. After hearing Lada's name for Jia Yan, and then seeing Jia Yan's terrifying performance when he appeared on the stage, the strong men brought by Lada changed their original attitude towards the evolved beast, and directly changed their attitude to compliments. Come up and say hello. The entire battlefield stopped fighting because of the giant mosquito monster that suddenly appeared. Everyone felt an unprecedented pressure. Whether it was the scornful aura of the giant mosquito or the terrifying strength of instantly killing the clones of 2 monkey creatures as soon as it appeared, they all knew that what was coming was definitely capable of overwhelming everyone. The terrifying strong man in the field. Damn it, my clone. Is he the so-called evolved beast? It's scary. Sure enough, this starry sky cannot be underestimated. There is such a terrifying guy hiding there. The faces of the other territory lord level beings who were fighting against Lada and the others suddenly turned sinister, especially the monkey territory lord among them, who had lost 2 clones. How could he not be angry? However, no matter whether it is the monkey creature or the other major domain lords, no one took advantage of Jia Yan's appearance at this moment to take the preemptive approach against him, because they knew very well that the coming evolved beast it was a terrifying existence far beyond their imagination. Whether it is strong or not can actually be seen from the momentum of the first attack or appearance. But the strange thing is that even though this group of strong men recognized Jia Yan's strength, they still didn't retreat. They just stood silently, stepped back a little, and stared at Jia Yan and Lai with a cold look. The meeting of Ta and others. Okay, now that we are on the battlefield, I won't talk to you anymore. My friends over there, you are probably the mastermind behind the massive invasion of troops in my Orion arm, right? I wonder when you can leave me. Orion arm, these good brothers behind me can return to their hometowns to reunite with their relatives as soon as possible. Jia Yan said hello to everyone in an understated manner, then turned around and looked at the several enemy domain lords behind him with bright eyes. Jia Yan. Among the major enemy domain lords, the elephant-like creature of the power system seems to have a higher status among them. Although on the surface, their strength should be about the same, but from the perspective of engaging in style it seems that this elephant's status is slightly different. Yes, we are one of the behind-the-scenes commanders of the coalition forces stationed around the Orion arm front, but I cannot answer you as to the specific time of our departure, because there are people behind us who are leading this matter. Jia Yan nodded. I can also guess this detail, but I would like to ask you to ask that friend for me. I don't know what he wants to get in the Orion arm. I guess with your power's terrifying strength, you don't need to covet the mere Orions. Do you have the supplies for your arm? In other words, can you answer my questions for me without that friend? Jia Yan was speaking, but his body seemed to be moving unintentionally while chatting, and he slowly approached the side where several domain masters were present. There were 4 major domain lords on the other side, and they didn't look fearful. They just watched Jia Yan's arrival silently, and then the elephant creature continued to talk to him. What we want to get in the Orion arm is not the time to tell you now, but you will know one day. Of course, if Mr. Jia Yan wants to know in advance, you can also try to defeat us here, then all the information you want to know will be known, but it depends on whether you have this ability. Is that ability? Jia Yan continued to nod indifferently. You all really look down on my abilities, Jia Yan. In this case, I'm here, so why don't I show you my abilities? How about playing a game? You give me a chance of 10 moves. If I can't subdue all of you within 10 moves, I will give up. Whether you want my life or something from the Orion arm, I will do whatever you want. Do you want to play or not? 10 moves. 10 moves to subdue all of them present? Whimsical. At this moment, everyone, no matter the enemy or friend, felt dumbfounded. Because the enemy has 4 major domain lords. These 4 major domain lords have just fought with Leda and the others. Even a few days ago, the monkey domain lord has fought another battle with Leda and the others, killing 3 major galaxies with 1 person level, and also injured a senior territory lord of the Leda race. Their strength was clearly demonstrated in these 2 battles. Even the genius territory master behind Leda was extremely serious and believed that he might not be able to win any of them one-on-one. But what did Jia Yan say? He actually said that he could kill all of them within 10 moves with 1 arm. This is a joke. Haha, the reputation of this evolved beast is so great in the neighborhood, is it so great that even he himself has become famous? I can't laugh or cry either, Jia Yan, right? Do you really think that you, the domain lord, who are both at the territory lord level, can defeat a few of us? And it's still within 10 moves. Why didn't you say within 4 moves, 1 move at a time? Come on. You are too arrogant. You dare to kill 2 of my clones. Don't talk to him anymore. Just do it. As long as we kill him, our goal will be achieved. The enemy territory lord was very angry, especially the monkey territory lord. Several clones were very important to him. As a result, Jia Yan killed 2 of them when he fought back. Although he also saw that Jia Yan was extremely powerful, but Jia Yan actually dared to say that all his own domain lords, including himself, would be defeated within 10 moves. This was absolutely impossible for him. Because they are not ordinary domain lords in the Orion arm, but come from the relatively powerful Starry Sky region. It would be good if they do not look down on the weak domain lords in the Orion arm. In turn, they are looked down upon by the backward domain lords here. No one would be convinced. Yes. Oh. So, do you agree? Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then followed the words of these domain masters to scold him, and determine the meaning of their words without authorization. It doesn't matter whether you agree or not, Jia Yan, we belong to 2 camps after all. What's more, I personally don't like you just by listening to these few words of yours. So what do you want to do? I feel that I have this. If you have a skill, let's give it a try. The words spoken by the elephant creature were like a final decision. Okay, I'm going to take action. Don't blame me for not warning you in advance. Jia Yan shook his head and slowly retreated into the subspace. Here we go. Leda also retreated to the side of the galaxy and territory lords that you invited. His eyes were like bright flames, and he carefully looked at the group of enemy territory lords in front of him. The others were similar, but unlike Leda's confidence, their eyes were full of worry and disbelief. Although Jia Yan's appearance just now did give them an extremely amazing sense of momentum, Jia Yan made a big statement after that, saying that he would defeat all the opponent's domain lords within 10 moves, which made everyone present find it unacceptable. Jia Yan is the territory lord. Although he is a relatively powerful territory lord, no one wants to believe that there is such a huge difference in strength between the strong men who are also territory lords. Each of the enemy's major domain lords is stronger than the domain lord here. Even the genius domain lord found it quite difficult to fight with the clone of the monkey creature. In other words, Jia Yan actually wanted to. It is impossible for them to defeat all the domain lords within 10 moves. Agreeing with Jia Yan's rhetoric is like agreeing that Jia Yan is far stronger than them. This is something that is difficult for the strong to accept. But now that Jia Yan has said it, he has begun to take action. They can only watch. If they really can't fight, it is impossible for Jia Yan to fight alone. After all, they have slowly become a rope of grasshoppers. If we can't do it later, we'll do it together. With so many people taking action, even if we can't defeat them all at once, it won't be a big problem if we want to kill one or two of them. The senior behind Leda whispered to Leda and others. Without waiting for others to reply, Leda was the first to answer. Senior, you can rest assured, my master said 10 moves, that is 10 moves, there will be no problem. After hearing what Leda said, the others were stunned for a moment, then looked thoughtfully at the huge hammer in Leda's hand, and then wisely closed their mouths. Leda has such a hammer, and it is said that Jia Yan made it himself, so does he himself have it? If there was such a weapon, it would be quite possible for Jia Yan's force value to be increased, and it would be quite possible to kill the 4 domain lords in 10 moves. In the subspace, Jia Yan appeared lightly beside an enemy territory lord, and before he had time to react, he quickly stabbed his foot out. The first move, he said calmly. Here it comes. That's all. The territory lord who withstood Jia Yan's attack was the territory lord who had previously created an illusion of brainwave power. When Jia Yan released his feet, his illusion was suddenly released, and his body was all over the sky. Then Jia Yan's attack seemed to fall into an empty space, and the normal space it aimed at fell directly into the air. Puff. However, when everyone thought that Jia Yan's attack was ineffective, the figure of this phantom brainwave powerhouse appeared in another place in the space. A ball of blood shot out from his abdomen, indicating that he was injured. It's okay if you're injured, then I'll take care of the first one. Jia Yan yawned, as if it wasn't enough to cheer him up just now. His head exposed the subspace for a moment, and then fell silent into it again. He doesn't give up his warp talents, as he would have to be a fool to not use his talents to fight his enemies. Besides, no one would think that he would be more of a gentleman if he didn't use his special skills. This is a battle between strong men, and it is also a battle between strong men of the same level. Even though he is a combat-type domain lord, equivalent to a senior domain lord, but in terms of large levels, they are of the same level as this group of creatures, so if they don't use subspace, that would be disrespectful. Besides, why would he make himself more tired when he could relax? It's just luck, look at my giant elephant trunk. The elephant-like creature rushed to the normal space where Jia Yan had just closed the subspace, and raised its trunk. In an instant, it was like plasticine, stretched out dozens of kilometers long, and shot directly from outside the subspace. Inside the subspace, if you want to hit Jia Yan with one blow. Anyone else dares to attack directly? Well done. Jia Yan was in the subspace, and his yawning voice turned into surprise for a moment, and then the elephant trunk creature suddenly noticed that his trunk hurt directly. It turned out that the giant mosquito raised its foot and quickly cut off the foot, completely cutting off a section of the trunk creature's nose as if it had been cut by a blade. Mark. The elephant trunk creature retreated violently, but his elephant trunk, which was quite thick just now, was less than half of it at this moment. His whole body was extremely unbalanced, and the sight of blood flowing profusely was quite scary. The second move, well, this can be considered as solving the second one, right? Fortunately, these friends put their heads into the subspace, otherwise the head would be cut off. Tisk tisk, an elephant without a head. Jia Yan's lazy voice in the subspace was still so listless. But no one outside the subspace has any objection to Jia Yan's trick. Every one of them, except Leda, felt deep fear. This is a powerful voice, and also a strong self-confidence. One move after another, people do what they say. According to this situation, there is no need for 10 moves at all, but 4 moves, 1 move for each enemy territory lord, which is enough. Let you pretend. Suddenly, the monkey creature, which was already on the verge of rage, screamed suddenly when Jia Yan retreated to half the space and prepared to attack another domain lord. Then, Jia Yan felt that at the edge of his subspace, a figure that he had never seen before appeared from the ordinary space, and then penetrated the subspace with the same scream, and directly hit his body. Huh? It's a clone again, and this clone is a bit interesting. Jia Yan was stunned. You know, he didn't notice this domain lord level clone just now. This shows how hidden the opponent's last clone was. Moreover, the moment it was knocked out, the space shock caused was quite obvious, which shows that this clone is so powerful that it may even be as different from the original body of the monkey creature. This is the most powerful clone used by a terrifying territory lord, and it may also be his last trump card. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2535. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. You want to make me self-destruct? Have you even used this trick? But using a clone to pull a strong person to self-destruct is my special move, but you are still too young to do what you know best. Jia Yan immediately knew what the other party wanted to do. As an old man who played with explosions, self-destructions, and using his own stumps to blow up people, he must have more experience in this skill than the other party. So at this moment, he didn't show any fear, and he didn't do much to avoid it. He just watched the clone of the monkey creature that had expanded to an extremely serious extent coming, and then expanded to the limit in front of him, and then exploded. Come on. Boom. You must know that this is a powerful clone who is equivalent to the strength of the domain master. The power contained in it is terrifying and unimaginable. Even creatures such as Leda in the distance are affected by the shocking power of the explosion. It was blown around, and a ray of light similar to the sun appeared in the space. After a long time, this brilliance that could not be seen directly by human eyes gradually dissipated. The light disappeared, and the particles in the entire vacuum, as well as all kinds of materials, and even subspace, became completely chaotic. The energy of the materials in this area was extremely high, and the temperature reached the point where a pot of water was thrown in, and it would immediately change to the point of boiling water. Cosmic radiation is shooting randomly here, and the shock wave just now may be transmitted very far. If it accidentally hits a nearby planet, that planet happens to have a weak ray similar to the Earth civilization. It is a mass extinction of life. This is already comparable to the explosion power of an asteroid, or more than comparable, but equivalent to the explosion of an asteroid. If it were any stronger, even a planet like the Earth would be blown to pieces. In such an earth-shattering explosion, no matter who he is, even a domain lord level existence, he is afraid that he will be blown into a dead body. Ha ha ha, he was hit, and he didn't even run away. This guy definitely believed in his own strength too much in the countryside and had no idea how terrifying the battle outside was. Is that all? It seems that the so-called evolved beast is quite strong, but he is too conceited, and his conceitedness has harmed himself. I don't believe that this guy will die like this, just watch carefully. In the enemy's camp, several powerful men were a little solemn. Even though most of them were happy, the elephant creature was still extremely doubtful that Jia Yan could have died like this. You know, when he fought with him just now, Jia Yan knocked him to pieces with one blow. If he hadn't stretched his head into the subspace, maybe his entire head would have been chopped off. Boom 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 boom. The earth-shattering explosion sound waves are constantly being transmitted in the vacuum of the universe that should be silent. This is because the vacuum of the universe is said to be silent. In fact, it is because there are too few particles that can transmit sound, but it does not mean that there are no particles in the vacuum of the universe. In fact, there is no cosmic vacuum in which there are no material particles at all. There are more or less particles that transmit terrifying and huge sounds to the cosmic storm or the cosmic vacuum, and now is the time to transmit this sound. At least for the strong, the sound perceived through the power of brain waves is as powerful as earth-shattering, so they can understand how strong the current sound is. Finally, the central part of the vacuum, which had been releasing power, faintly revealed what it looked like inside. A shadow about 50 kilometers up and down, as if it had never moved even half a step, its entire body calmly appeared in the center of the explosion just now. What? Impossible. Is this the evolved beast just now? How is it possible that you can survive being affected by that kind of explosion? I do not believe. The monkey creature went from being confident at the beginning to being extremely shocked now. Then he was muttering words like disbelief and impossibility, as if he was trapped in a demonic barrier. As the owner of the clone, he naturally knows how terrible his clone is. It is impossible for an ordinary domain master to withstand such a terrifying self-destruction attack. Speaking of self-destruction, he has learned from someone he was inspired by the race that can throw his own head fruit as a bomb, and he positioned this clone as a last resort from the beginning. In addition to reaching the top level of concealment, the power of self-destruction is even more terrifying. Even treason has arisen before, and this attack from me may be unbearable even by my adult. But today, his extremely confident power was directly denied under Jia Yan's ruthless resistance. He couldn't believe it at all, as if it was a dream. The same is true for other enemy strong men. After all, they all firmly believe in the ultimate method of their partners. After all, this monkey creature can enter their combat team, and his status is only lower than that of the elephant creature. Just because of the attack power of one hand is quite disappointing. The elephant creature will respect the monkey creature. This is why the monkey creature was the first person in the team to take action during the previous battle, and others would let him. Opposite the enemy, standing at the other end of the battlefield, Leda and others were blown backwards and flew tens of thousands of kilometers away. They were also shocked by Jia Yan's ability to resist this time. Leda was stunned. Even he didn't think Jia Yan could withstand the power of the self-destruction just now. When Jia Yan couldn't avoid it, he even wondered whether there was something strange about his body. Otherwise, why would it be so? What he didn't expect was that Jia Yan's performance this time made him completely unexpected. He could resist this extremely powerful self-destruction with such calmness and composure. Leda suddenly seemed to remember something. That's right, as early as when Leda and Jia Yan were still in the palace on the long journey to the earth, he had seen Jia Yan practicing some of his abilities in the palace, some of which developed his own subspace. More potential. One of the potentials is one that Leda still can't figure out. As for Jia Yan's current performance, maybe this ability plays a role in it? What Leda thought of was that Jia Yan's new ability was good. I have already said that Jia Yan's pure strength cannot be improved now that he has just been promoted, but he has not said that Jia Yan cannot improve his strength. In fact, Jia Yan, who has just been promoted to Territory Lord not long ago, is still in the process of developing more fighting methods and combat abilities at the Territory Lord level. If he develops any terrible moves during this process, he will become another domain lord in the future. A main level trump card is not impossible. At least as of now, Jia Yan's domain lord level trump card has already been developed in certain parts, such as his magic weapon, his self-destruction method, and various escape skills. In the huge skill tree, you can easily pick out certain moves that can make him stronger at the moment. The skill that Jia Yan is using at this time is something strange that he gradually realized after seeing the subspace in the previous subspace palace and how the palace navigated in the subspace, but it is definitely effective enough. Skill. That's it? Jia Yan smiled and moved his body, and then his eyes flashed with something called confidence. It's not like he has done nothing for such a long time. His brainwave power has been unable to progress, but he will never give up on various other techniques to find new ways. It turns out that the defensive power of that move is so terrifying, oh my god. Here, Leda said something that surprised everyone around him. They only knew that Leda understood what Jia Yan's skills were, but they didn't know the true technical principles of Jia Yan's move. In fact, if one enters the subspace of the present moment, one will understand something. Jia Yan's entire body was enveloped by a certain subspace vein behind him. The explosives used by the opponent, in the horrific explosion just now, this vein actually absorbed the explosives that Jia Yan was attacked by. Self-explosion power, and then the other end of the pulse. It is the huge palace deep in the six-dimensional space. You know, the defensive power of the palace is definitely much stronger than that of the Earth. How can its manufacturing materials and so on be comparable to a planet, plus the certain aura reinforced by the creator of this planet? That is, what was able to suppress the Domain Lord at the beginning, and now after being thoroughly studied by Jia Yan also added a large circle of yin and yang Dao momentum. After adding several various things, the defense of this palace, even if it hits the sun, it won't necessarily be burned. In other words, Jia Yan allowed the power of the explosion to be guided to the palace through the veins, and then the palace took all the power of the self-destruction on his behalf, and the impact on him was minimal. Of course, the limitations of this skill are too great. For example, it is difficult to use when the subspace is restricted or interfered by the enemy. For example, it is difficult to use when the enemy's attack and explosion power exceeds the palace's defense. In addition, it is also difficult to use. There is a limitation, and it is also the biggest limitation. This kind of defense method can generally only deal with uncontrolled explosion power. If it becomes an enemy's move attack or one's own organ attack, it will be ineffective. In other words, this kind of defensive method is quite effective for bragging under the current situation. If you want to increase the effect, I am afraid that more and more in-depth research must be conducted. In short, no matter whether it is effective in other places, at least the current effect is still good, and it is shocking to see. This is impossible, I don't believe it. The Monkey Territory Master has spent his whole life researching on his clones. The strongest clone at the moment was actually resisted by Jia Yan so easily. He researched this move and then used it to become famous all over the world. It is naturally impossible for a strong person to agree, and the whole person suddenly became a little insane. Die. After the monkey creature's expression suddenly changed, it rushed towards Jia Yan. He couldn't bear the feeling that his strongest method was regarded as a harmless attack, and he couldn't accept that several of his friends around him were questioning him at this moment. So he took the initiative. Oh? Do you want to die here? You have a bit of a mental breakdown, right? I didn't expect that I caused a domain lord to have a mental breakdown. I'm sorry, since you have a demonic barrier, then I will help you. You kill him to avoid any problems in your future cultivation. Jia Yan said calmly and hypocritically, watching the monkey creature charging forward. He was ready to penetrate it with a long and bold step, so that his sinful life would end here. But when he was about to attack, his face suddenly changed slightly, and his body exploded backwards. A part of the knife-shaped body flashed silently from the subspace, crossed the subspace area where Jia Yan was, and missed Jia Yan's body by just a hair. Without leaving a trace of the surface, he lightly retracted into the subspace. The monkey creature's attack was simply avoided by Jia Yan. He just threw out a long leg, and the monkey creature was hit far away. He woke up and no longer dared to attack. Who? Jia Yan ignored the monkey creature and looked at the surrounding subspace with a somewhat formidable gaze. When he came to this space just now, he had clearly seen the nearby subspaces and found nothing unusual. What he didn't expect was that in the subspace he had seen, his old lair seemed to have betrayed him. There was a strange attack. He didn't even feel it before the attack appeared. What a terrifying subspace ability this is. Jia Yan looked at the subspace with some solemnity. His subspace ability was soaring like crazy, causing slight chaos in the surrounding world. In the subspace, a large number of fluctuations appeared in an instant. The entire first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way to the ninth layer of the subspace were disrupted by his innate ability. Without fluctuations, under such circumstances, neither he nor the palace in the subspace, plus possible enemies, could stay in the subspace for long. Haha, it is really powerful. Is this the result of the evolved beast mastering the subspace ability? What a terrifying subspace talent. This laughter appeared directly in the subspace. The laughter is a laugh, but it is better to say that it is neither sad nor happy. It is impossible to tell whether it is a real laugh or a sarcasm, or some other emotional state. In short, it makes people feel as if the other party is not very happy at all. Pay attention to the fight of the moment. Jia Yan, on the other hand, calmed down after hearing this voice and the fierce strength of the opponent's attack just now. He knew that this was not just one of the enemy's subordinates. If his subordinates were all so terrifying, Jia Yan wouldn't even need to fight him, he would just turn around and leave, because he knew that his subordinates were all so terrifying and he had no chance of winning. Fortunately, it sounds like this is not the enemy's subordinate at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2537. Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky novel, find the latest chapter. It's the so-called evolved beast enemy, myself. Jia Yan calmly looked at the subspace where he spoke the words. At the same time, the talent of the subspace continued to evaporate, filling the world. Sure enough, when he observed carefully, he could see that deep in the subspace, there was really an approaching figure, gradually appearing in the direction of the subspace. He was a little surprised at the same time, and also became aware of it. This guy is indeed a powerful person with subspace talent, but his strength does not seem to be as scary as he imagined. As for why he was able to escape his own subspace exploration, I am afraid it is because of what else he used when entering the subspace. The method of concealing the power of other subspace heavenly servers. Your Excellency, I don't need you to praise me for my subspace strength. Now I just want to know, are you the instigator of this attack in the Orion arm space? While speaking, he already felt a figure in the subspace being forced by him, and its clues were gradually revealed. This figure is entirely snow-white in color, somewhat similar to the original Satsuma-chan true form, both of which are extremely white and dazzlingly noble. It's just that it is not a female creature, but a male creature, and the aura of a male creature on his body is extremely strong. If I insist on saying so, Jia Yan is a dark and powerful creature, while this one is a snow-white male. The two creatures are like black and white. At first glance, they actually complement each other, and it is hard to tell who is more outstanding. In other words, they are two handsome men, both of them look like extremely handsome men, but the other is white and he is black, it is impossible to tell them apart. Bo. The subspace split open and the creature flew out in an instant. When he appeared, the whole world seemed to be illuminated. Such white creatures were really rare among the creatures in the universe, and their temperament and strong aura reached all the strong people present. An unattainable level. Except of course Jia Yan. It's just that Jia Yan's appearance is black, which is a conventional biological color. To put it bluntly, he's not as showy as his counterpart, so he's not as dazzling as him. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I have been fascinated by you for a long time, and now I finally have the chance to meet you, and I have admired you for a long time. After the other party appeared, he greeted Jia Yan indifferently, as if the two parties were really close friends. Jia Yan, on the other hand, looked at this guy solemnly. He is white in color overall, and looks like a dolphin creature with a surprisingly big head. Although he looks like a child with cerebral palsy, there is no sense of disobedience. And because of his temperament and appearance, he is very different from a cosmic creature. It seems that his beauty is really outstanding, and he is a handsome man among handsome men. Even Jia Yan, who is an evolved beast, seems to be at a disadvantage because his individual color is not as showy as the others. Of course, overall, both sides are still on the same level. Ha! After seeing the other party's appearance, Jia Yan smiled slightly. Stop being superficial, my friend, since you are going to be an enemy of me, Jia Yan, then draw up a charter, or say, how about we decide the outcome here? Jia Yan's words stuck everything the other person wanted to say in his throat, causing his speech to stagnate. Then the dolphin creature was no longer so familiar, and it calmly changed into another face, one that was quite cold. We can't talk about being enemies with you. We all have our own development paths, Jia Yan. You are a very capable person. I have known it from other people's mouths for a long time. However, your strength has developed too fast. For the next, I'm sure I don't have a clue about the level upgrade I came down from, right? So what? I do. I want us subspace talents to have a stronger voice, so I'm here to let your strength merge into mine. The subspace abilities of two people will definitely get more. The powerful energy bursts out, giving us subspace talented experts one more person who is stronger than ordinary domain lords, and even reaches the lower levels of the galaxy. Jia Yan continued to sneer. So what? You give up your identity, status, and strength, and we can fulfill this long-cherished wish. In the future, you will be an intermediate domain lord, or even part of the high-level powerhouses of the galaxy. Aren't you excited? I am sure that if this continues, even if your talents are good, it will be difficult to find the key to further progress. Why not just transfer these talents and abilities to me, and I will carry them forward for you in the future? What the white creature said was really refreshing to Jia Yan. There are such shameless creatures in the world, and the reasons he gave seemed to be believed by himself. Even unreasonable women would not say such things. Okay. Sir, when you say these things, do you think it is right? I am curious, do your subordinates also think it is right? Are they willing to do it if you want their strength to become a part of you? Jia Yan asked a little strangely. Of course they agree with my plan, and they are the people closest to me. I will not ask for their strength. The dolphin-like creature looked at Jia Yan calmly, and continued to talk to Jia Yan with his fallacies. Quibble. Then there's nothing to talk about. Let's just do it here. I believe that since you are here, you want to test your strength with me, right? It's useless to talk more. Jia Yan summoned up the power of his brain waves, and then suddenly, he was the first to take action. Although his brainwave power has never been one of his strongest methods, it can definitely be said to be good at the domain lord level, especially for those who are below the senior domain lord. It is the kind of existence that is invincible. It's just that the subspace talented dolphin creature in front of him is definitely not an ordinary domain lord, so the brainwave power released by Jia Yan, the other party also used a brainwave power lightly, collided with his energy, and both transformed. Became a flame in space. Puff. Puff. Love reading books. The two people's movements were exactly the same, and then they entered the subspace together. Even if the subspace has been disrupted by Jia Yan's talent, it does not mean that it is completely impossible to enter, especially when they have reached the subspace talent level like theirs. Even if the subspace is disordered, when they enter, they will use your own talent to directly stabilize the surrounding subspace. This is the extent that subspace talents who have reached the realm master can achieve. Bang! Inside the subspace, the two beings collided again. Jia Yan soon felt that although the opponent was a strong person with subspace talent, his subspace development direction was obviously different from his own. In the past, Jia Yan was just a talented person who simply used his subspace talent to fight in subspace. But during his adventure on the North Star, he raised his subspace talent to a certain limit, and this the ultimate development direction is shuttle. Jia Yan's current subspace extreme development direction, because the subspace in the North Star is difficult to enter, has been constantly developing in the direction of shuttle, which has become his unique and terrifying talent. So after colliding with the opponent, he used the ultimate penetration attribute to wander in the subspace. Although the opponent was also fast, he was obviously not as fast as Jia Yan, a level slower. But Jia Yan still did not underestimate this strong man. After all, the opponent's strength is indeed a real senior domain lord level. Coupled with his subspace talent and ability, and until now, he still doesn't know if there is anything terrible. The killer weapon, so the two can only be said to be at the level of testing each other. The two collided again, and Jia Yan's eyes flickered. He felt that the other party flew near an explosive that he had buried in the subspace. Then his face turned cold, and the explosive flew up and hit him. On this dolphin creature. Boom! The explosive exploded straight away, blowing the dolphin creature to pieces. Huh? No. After Jia Yan was stunned, he felt that it was impossible for a dolphin creature to be killed by him so easily. After being stunned for a moment, he felt a distortion suddenly appeared next to him, which made his expression change. And quickly made the positive and negative forces in his body useless, that is, the explosive energy of yin and yang dao, exploded in an instant. The body moved instantly to avoid this shocking blow. Oh! Yes, yes, you are indeed the opponent I like. It seems that it is not that easy to win you over. The dolphin creature looked a little surprised, and then nodded indifferently. You're not bad either. It seems that it's not that simple to defeat you, so let me show you my other tricks. Jia Yan snorted coldly, feeling that this guy was still pretending, and he couldn't help but want to tear this creature to pieces. Wait a minute, let's end today's battle. Let's treat it as a draw. It's not wise for our two kings to start a war now. It's better to play the war game again. When the time comes, there will naturally be a battle between you and me. I can collect as much intelligence on you as possible during this period, and you can also think of strategies to deal with me. This is an authentic war between strong men, what do you think? The dolphin creature stopped Jia Yan from further attacking and retreated silently. In Jia Yanfu's eyes, a gleam of thought flashed several times. He wanted to continue fighting, but also wanted to forget it. He would take his people back to Orion Bay first, so that at least the rear area could have peace of mind. Otherwise, if he directly fights against the opponent's king explosion, no matter he wins or loses, Orion Arm will suffer. After all, he also knows that it is not that easy to kill this senior subspace domain master. Yes, just like the dolphin creature knew that he was a senior, he also found out that the other party was a senior domain master, and his brainwave power seemed to be higher than his own. Of course, the comprehensive strength was not necessarily the same. It was only a few moves. It would take at least hundreds or thousands of moves to roughly reveal all the details of the opponent. Walk. The dolphin creature didn't give Jia Yan much to think about. He left the subspace and let his brainwave power sweep through all his subordinates present. None of those subordinates resisted and let him wrap up directly into the subspace. While Jia Yan was staring at him, He also swayed in the subspace a few times and lost track of him in Jia Yan's eyes. What a terrifying subspace strength. I'm even a little bit behind it. Jia Yan couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. His subspace research was actually a little behind the senior subspace domain master. Of course, he did not belittle himself, because in other aspects, the opponent was definitely not as good as him, such as his ability to interfere with large areas of subspace in an instant, and his ability to shuttle through subspace that he honed on the North Star. This is quite a difficult thing for the other party. The two sides can only be said to be on equal footing, at least that's what this battle revealed. Let's leave too, Leda, you organize the crowd. Jia Yan's brainwave power spread directly in the subspace, allowing all our people in the outside world to hear it. Of course, Jia Yan doesn't know whether all of these so-called our people are from our side, and whether some of them are about to leave. He just temporarily identifies them as his own people. Because no matter what, even if he is leaving now, he was indeed fighting for him, Jia Yan, and that's right. Okay. Leda was outside the subspace and had been watching the battle inside the subspace. To be honest, his strength was too weak. The subspace became completely chaotic due to the battle between the two senior subspace domain masters. He watched. I don't know what happened in this space, so I am still frightened. I didn't expect that after the enemy Dolphin Territory Lord took his own people away, my lord actually calmly told him to integrate his people, explaining that my lord not at a disadvantage either. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Guys, if you are still willing to fight with me and Mr. Jia Yan, then follow us. Of course, I hope you all go. After all, we have fought so much. Don't you think it's a pity to leave now? Leda's voice spoke impartially to the several territory lords and galaxy-level powerhouses around him. Just like what he said, if those who choose to leave now will have worked for Jia Yan in vain, if they still follow Jia Yan now, there may be a lot of life and death battles to follow. The previous enemy attacks were fatal and wounded in an instant, so they were a little hesitant in their hearts. But as Leda said, they have already fought 2 battles for Jia Yan. If they leave now, Jia Yan may not accept their love, and they have already witnessed that the enemy's boss and his side, the boss of Jia Yan, had a battle, but could not tell the winner, which shows that his side is not inferior to the opponent in terms of top combat effectiveness. So even if he joins Jia Yan's team, he will not be affected by the top combat effectiveness. If there is a gap and the winner is quickly decided between the two sides, at least they will have the strongest backing. In order to facilitate reading next time, you can click collection below to record this reading record, chapter 2488, draw. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe, and you can see it next time you open the bookshelf. If you like Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2538. Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky novel, find the latest chapter. I'll join your side, but I want this senior evolutionary beast to give me some guidance. The first person to stand up was actually the genius territory lord. His eyes looked towards the direction of Jia Yan's subspace with a bright fighting spirit. He knew that he couldn't beat Jia Yan, but as a genius, how could he miss this competition and improvement? Maybe through sparring, he will learn more about the true meaning of fighting, and then his combat effectiveness will really be raised to a new level. My friend, I noticed you just now. Your strength is very good. If you want me to discuss with you, I am naturally willing. Jia Yan looked at this talented domain master in the subspace and felt that he had not encountered such an enterprising person for a long time. He couldn't help but forgive his disrespect and nodded directly in agreement. I will also join you. The senior of Leda stood up calmly. I'm joining too. Now that we've reached this point, we'd be a fool to quit. Another territory lord stood up at the same time, with a firm expression. Seeing that all the domain lords agreed to this matter, the remaining galaxy-level beings looked at each other, and then they all chose to join Jia Yan's side. Since then, the Orion arm has finally had a new force join in. You will not regret your choice today. When Jia Yan saw this scene, he knew that he would really have some trustworthy power. He immediately smiled and the brainwave power swept out, covering everyone. Everyone was a little wary, which was the instinctive reaction of a strong man, but after looking at each other, they all gave up the idea of resisting. If Jia Yan really wanted to deal with them, he wouldn't need to use any strategy at all, he could just do it directly. So resistance is not necessary. Puff. A group of creatures were shrouded in Jia Yan's power, and then a huge gap opened in the subspace, and then everyone was pulled into the subspace. The enemies who left in front have already moved away, so there should be no danger in the subspace. Jia Yan doesn't care that much, the worst thing is to do it again. Now that he knows the enemy's identity and general strength, he will naturally not have any more complicated emotions. For anyone, the unknown and mystery are the most fearful. At the moment, he not only learned about the opponent's purpose from the galaxy-level strongman who was instigated by him, but also personally fought with the opponent's final boss. It can be said that he knew the details of the enemy. Although it also exposed a lot of his own details, but this is only fair. Buzz. Buzz. The living creatures wrapped in Jia Yan's brainwave power saw that the subspace around them was extremely distorted, and they quickly entered the depths of the subspace. And they were also surprised to find that Jia Yan actually took them directly to continue advancing into the very depths of subspace. This discovery made several of them a little frightened by the galaxy-level powerhouses, because for ordinary galaxy-level people, they will be easily injured in the 5th and 6th dimensions, and their lives may be in danger when they reach the 7th dimension. As for entering the 8th or even deeper subspace, without the talent of the subspace, even the domain lord will be in danger. So how could they not be frightened? Don't worry, Master Jia Yan is confident. In addition, you must be prepared to accept what you see next. In the energy of the package, Leda spoke to others to remind and comfort him. Although his subdimensional ability was still weak, and entering the 7th or 8th subspace would definitely be a disaster, he was not worried at all out of his trust in Jia Yan. Nothing. After receiving his assurance, the surrounding galaxy class and domain masters relaxed a little. And just as he promised, Jia Yan did not feel overwhelmed because he brought so many creatures with him. He went smoothly all the way and directly reached the interior of the 9th dimension. After the battle just started, the palace received Jia Yan's instructions, and Edisha operated the palace to enter the depths of the subspace to avoid being noticed by the opponent's subspace strongmen. So at that moment, these powerful men who were brought into the subspace by Jia Yan discovered that there was an extremely huge palace in this 9th dimensional subspace. It was almost the size of a planet, which shocked them extremely. No creature in this area had ever seen such a giant building. Even in the central star field of the Milky Way, such a building is rare, let alone around the Orion arm. And what surprised them a little was that behind the palace, there was a little tail hanging, which was the Edisha star. Although it was enough for them to live on this kind of planet, compared to the thousands of kilometers ahead, in terms of big palaces, Edisha star is really like a small one. Of course, what shocked them the most was that in the 9-dimensional subspace, every one of them, even those domain lords, were definitely dead, but the palace and the planet seemed to be immune to the surrounding environment. It stands here like a distorting influence. This astonishing sight naturally shocked everyone. Okay, now you know why I brought you here? Go in, the palace is big enough for everyone to live and communicate in it. Jia Yan smiled. He liked to see these people frightened by his own palace. It was quite interesting, just like how he felt when he saw this kind of palace. There is no way, who allowed himself to be so vulgar. Jia Yan pushed everyone into the palace, and while entering, all living creatures felt that a defensive barrier suddenly appeared in the palace, and a gap opened. After they entered, the gap gradually closed. The barriers come together. Poof. The palace can be said to be majestic and magnificent. Although the main hall cannot cover 10,000 kilometers, it does have a radius of 6 to 7,000 kilometers. It seems that you can't see the edge at a glance. Of course, for this group of people who are often 20 or 30 kilometers away, the size, especially for several domain lords, who reach the size of 50 kilometers, this size is quite good. Open. All living creatures have not experienced such a feeling for countless years, and for a moment they felt that they were quite insignificant. Haha, you can go to the side hall later and look for your own room, but come here now. Let's have a meeting and get to know each other. In the next period of time, I'm afraid we will join forces to fight against the white dolphin creature from before. Jia Yan came to his seat in the main hall and said calmly to the group of creatures below. Yes, Master Jia Yan. Only then did all the powerful men react and respectfully saluted the leader, Jia Yan. Otherwise, people still have to be strict. Although Jia Yan had shown his terrifying strength before, this group of creatures admired Jia Yan for his strength and did not think he had any background for such a young creature. But now, such a terrifying palace that they had never heard of suddenly came to them. The appearance seems to have enhanced Jia Yan's sense of heritage, and all living creatures have become respectful to Jia Yan, and their attitudes have become much more submissive. This is just like in human society. A rich person needs to buy some paintings by famous artists, or collect some antiques, and it is best to read some elegant ancient poems, so that others will not think that he is just a rich bumpkin. Jia Yan's strength, coupled with the astonishing palace now, increased his temperament, and completely overawed this group of strong men. Everyone began to introduce themselves one by one, and Jia Yan was not so pretentious, because in the following days, he would work with this group of strong men to fight the white pig himself and his subordinates, even if they were friends. Yes, so he listened very carefully. After all the people introduced themselves, Jia Yan stood up calmly and said softly to all the powerful creatures, "Very good, then let me also introduce myself. My general information, Leda must also know about you. I've said it before, now I'll add a little bit. My name is Jia Yan, and I am from the Orion Arm clan of evolved beasts. In addition, I am still very young now. You may think that I am not qualified enough, but I have traveled to the central star field of the Milky Way with Leda and others. I don't dare to boast about anything else, but I pride myself on having a deeper knowledge of battles and big scenes than you guys, so if anyone disobeys my orders in the future, you can come to me in person. Confront me in front of me, I accept all doubts, but, there is one thing I will not allow, that is betrayal. If I find that someone has betrayed me, betrayed our coalition, not to mention the benefits, I may even turn them into killed on the spot. Don't doubt my strength and determination, I believe the previous battles have proven it to you. Of course we are willing to obey Lord Jia Yan's orders. Well, I will listen to Lord Jia Yan's orders. No one dares to question your words, my lord." Several strong men who were licking dogs quickly expressed their loyalty to Jia Yan respectfully, but the three major domain masters hesitated for a moment. They are here to support Jia Yan, not to be subordinates. Even if they have such determination, at least they believe that they should not be so disrespectful to their own talents and others. Leda looked at his senior and spoke a little. I don't know what he said, but the senior was stunned for a moment, then came up to the front and said with great respect to Jia Yan, "Of course I also follow Mr. Jia Yan's leadership. If you don't dislike me for being old and not strong, I am willing to serve you." "Very good, you are Leda Senior. Logically speaking, I should respectfully call you Senior. But now that the enemy is facing us, I can only consider myself your superior. After the war in the future, I will definitely call you Senior. I will continue to address you as Senior." Jia Yan smiled and nodded. Then, he set his sights on the remaining two domain masters. The powerful territory lords are unruly and rebellious. They are definitely different from the galaxy level and Leda seniors. They have completely different self-esteem and self-confidence. So Jia Yan seems to be forcing them to agree to be his subordinates, but in fact he is still a little bit relaxed. If they really don't want to call him an adult, then they can just call him an adult, but for the tasks he requires, the other party it must be done, otherwise this temporary force will definitely be doomed. Sir, I am also willing to work for you, and I will follow your lead. But what surprised Jia Yan was that the powerful domain lord creature stood up and followed the example of others and saluted Jia Yan respectfully. Now, the only one left was the territory lord who claimed to be a genius. This person is definitely a tough nut to crack. Before coming here, Jia Yan investigated the information given by Leda and knew that the reason why this creature joined was not only to make this star field more peaceful, but also for another reason. In this battle, find an opponent who can match you. In other words, he is a fighting maniac who refuses to admit defeat, and it is quite troublesome for such a fighting maniac to accept others as his leader. Jia Yan was about to speak, saying that it didn't matter if this guy didn't want to call him sir. Unexpectedly, the domain lord walked out helplessly, saluted Jia Yan, and then said, "Sir Jia Yan, I can also call you sir. You need to try your best to help me improve my strength in the coming days. I don't need more, as long as you can let me increase my energy level a little, I will always be your subordinate." It seems that in the battle just now, he saw clearly the gap in strength between himself and knew that compared with the strong men from the outside world, he was not strong enough to dominate the entire galaxy. So he was ready to accept Jia Yan's invitation and then see if he could get the fighting power he wanted from Jia Yan. If successful, he would have the possibility to continue to become stronger. For those with a fighting spirit, their desire to become stronger is never-ending. In fact, Jia Yan is also like this. Very good. In this way, everyone will be comrades in arms. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with a bright light, and he was quite satisfied with the current situation. Although he once commanded such a team in the North Star, it felt different from how it feels now. At that time, he was still relatively weak, and any territory lord in the North Star was also extremely powerful. People let him take command because they valued his commanding ability. But now it's different. Although the strength and talent of this group of domain lord galaxy-level powerhouses can certainly not be compared with those on the North Star, they have enough dominance. In other words, this is after he emerged from the North Star. For the first time in a real sense, a team with several domain lord-level combat capabilities was formed. Although the enemy is stronger than we imagined, and even the team that encountered them today may only be the tip of the iceberg of their strength, but you have to believe that I also have the ability to let you exert a combat effectiveness that is not weaker than these opponents. In the future, you will definitely agree meeting me this time is the beginning of a legend. Jia Yan smiled and spoke grandly to the powerful subordinates under the throne. Yes, he has the confidence and the confidence. As long as he has basic strength, he will amplify the basic strength of his subordinates. For the convenience of reading next time, you can click collect below to record this time, chapter 2489. This is the beginning of the legend. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe, reading record, and you can see it next time you open the bookshelf. If you like Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support.